Chapter 241 Clean Up the Mood. After breakfast, a few people packed up and were ready to go. Makoto was injured a little, and the clothes on his body were also a little damaged. Although it was not enough to show the spring, girls like to be clean. When she mentioned it, the three of Naruto planned to take them to the surrounding small places first. Change and wash in the village. Under the leadership of Naruto, neither Sarah nor Makoto need to worry about safety issues. Both of them have seen Naruto's strength. Although Sarah doesn't know how strong Naruto is, that level of she had never seen the momentum and sight before. In her mind, Naruto was like the savior of the world. Makoto, on the other hand, roughly understands some of his abilities, but because he deeply understands how powerful he is, the time-space ninjutsu that comes and goes without a trace, as well as the unparalleled chakra and superb fabulous gymnastics. Although these are only the tip of the iceberg of Naruto's strength, Makoto has enough to realize how powerful he is. The three walked together for a while, until at noon, a small village finally appeared within sight. "There's a village over there, Naruto," Sarah shouted, pointing to the small village ahead. Naruto nodded and said, "It seems that this place has not been affected by the war. We should be able to stay here for a while in peace." Makoto nodded and replied, "Yes, it's been a long time since I took a shower and changed my clothes, and my body smells a little bit." She glanced at Sarah, seeing her bright and beautiful clothes, and couldn't help laughing bitterly. With that said, the three of them have already entered the village. It's just that most of the people in this village have uneasy expressions on their faces. The residential areas on both sides of the road are closed, and they dare not go out. There are not many pedestrians on the road. Some commercial shops are rarely open for business, and the three Naruto searched for a long time before they found a hotel. After simply staying here, Makoto went out to buy clothes. Naruto and Sarah stayed in the room. Sarah took the initiative to make 2 cups of tea, and handed one of them to Naruto. She took a sip and said with a gloomy expression, "Naruto, how long do you think this war will last?" "Maybe for several years," Naruto said lightly. "For several years? Hey, I don't know how many casualties would be lost in that case." Sarah sighed, with a sad look on her face. These days, Sarah has seen many civilians struggling to survive in the war years, and in this small village, she has experienced the unease of these people. In the quiet and prosperous Rorin, she had never seen such a scene. At this moment, she finally felt the pain and helplessness of the people. Fortunately, she had Naruto by her side to protect her. But what about the helpless ordinary civilians? Seeing Sarah's depressed mood, Naruto put down the teacup in his hand, reached out and patted her on the shoulder, and said softly, "Sarah, there will always be casualties in war, and the people have to experience wind and rain, but what about these? The power of the world can't change the whole pattern. Even if you lament how the world is, what's the use of it if you can't change it in the end? It's just adding trouble to yourself." Sarah nodded slightly, knowing that Naruto was comforting herself. She couldn't help raising her head and looking at him gratefully. "Naruto, I'm fine, I'm just a little emotional. With you by my side, I'm not afraid of anything." Quote. Naruto smiled and breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, Sarah suddenly leaned over and tucked her body into his arms. Nen Yuhi's pretty face was pressed against his chest, her hands tightly wrapped around Naruto's waist, and she closed her eyes slightly and said softly, "Naruto, I want to be with you forever." Naruto was stunned for a moment, feeling the deep affection in Sarah's tone, and his heart jumped up, but then he sighed silently again. He was going to return to the original time and space, and at that time he had to face it. The question of parting, unless he finds a way to get the best of both worlds, but at least he doesn't know it yet. At this moment, there was a knock on the door, and Sarah hurriedly left Naruto's embrace, and went to open the door with a faint expression on her face. "Open the door and come in, it's Makoto. Really, I can't find the kind of clothing I need in this village that is suitable for combat." She walked in while complaining, and saw Naruto who was sitting beside him suddenly said, "I found a good one just now. When Izumi bathhouse, do you want to go there together? Naruto and Sarah were stunned when they heard it. As a girl, Sarah, of course, couldn't stand the temptation to take a warm Izumi bath, and immediately nodded in response, I'm going. Then she turned her head to look at Naruto expectantly. Naruto, who has nothing to do now, of course nodded in agreement. So the three left the hotel and went to the bathhouse. Since no one went to the bathhouse during this time, and it was about to be closed, when Izumi was occupied by the three of Naruto. When Izumi, the three of them are very separated. Although this is a hybrid when Izumi, neither Makoto nor Sarah dared to approach Naruto, and each leaned against the three corners and closed their eyes to enjoy the rare relaxation at the moment. Naruto can't help but think of the person from that time and space. He doesn't know what has happened in the ninja world over there. Will Yugito be captured? Has Akatsuki collected most of the tailed beasts? Has Konoha been captured by Akatsuki? Thinking of this, his mood became a little unsettled, the chakra all over his body became agitated, and when Izumi's water surface couldn't help but rippling slightly. What's wrong? Makoto exclaimed, noticing the difference. It's okay, it's okay. Naruto came back to his senses, took a deep breath, calmed his mind, and stopped thinking about it. After a long time, Naruto suddenly fell asleep leaning against the wall of Wen Izumi. It wasn't until later when Sarah and Makoto were about to leave that they were woken up. After waking up, Naruto saw the two women staring at him with a slightly Yuhi expression on his face. He secretly thought, it seems that his nerves have been tense recently. I don't know if I fell asleep without realizing it, and I have to let others wake me up. It seems that I still need to practice. Since I am now in this time and space, let go of that time and space first. If I can afford it, I can let it go. This is the real powerhouse. Only by doing the present things well can you go further in the future. Meaningless sentimentality only appears in the weak. Thinking of this, Naruto couldn't help but slightly closed his eyes and took a deep breath in silence. When he opened his eyes again, his eyes were already firm. Chapter 242 Involved in Battle. Back at the hotel, Naruto and the two girls continued to live in this village for a few days. Every day was uneventful, and nothing major happened. However, Sarah has already started practicing chakra and ninjutsu under the guidance of Naruto. She has the special ability to control the dragon veins, and her physical potential is also very good. Master has learned the method of chakra cultivation, and can also use chakra to perform vertical lift. In this era of war, although Naruto is protected, it is also necessary to have a basis for self-protection. And Makoto also joined the practice. She is a ninja of Konoha. Although she is unable to return to the village now, this does not prevent her from practicing ninjutsu. Under the endless theories and subtle guidance of Naruto, Makoto is also more for Sharingan. Skilled in use, her master has more skills, and her strength can be said to have greatly improved. Now she has a strength that surpasses that of ordinary Jonin. Although she can't reach the level of elite Jonin, she already has the power to protect herself. On this day, the three of Naruto went to the street to eat, and suddenly noticed that everyone on the street looked a little panicked. The three of Naruto came to a restaurant, and when they were eating, they heard someone say that the war was going to spread to this village. When they heard it, they couldn't help but sigh. Makoto said in a low voice, I think the troops from Sand Ninja Village have invaded the territory of the Country of Fire. This is the territory of the Country of Fire. It seems that the situation on this side of the village is a little bit tense. Naruto nodded and said, well, but these things have nothing to do with us now. Let's set off immediately after eating, avoid the chaos of war, and then find the next foothold. Makoto listened and hesitated. Sarah nodded in agreement with Naruto. Three of them packed their things and immediately set off on the road. Both Naruto and Makoto had already hid the Konoha forehead guard. Makoto was wearing a black kimono, with long smooth hair hanging down like a waterfall, looking like a gentle gentleman. The image of her sister, even if the ninja from Konoha Fang saw her for a while at this time, she would not recognize her. After all, she always wears a close-fitting combat suit and a forehead guard. On the mountain road, the three walked slowly. Naruto radiated his perception and quietly paid attention to the surrounding situation. If he encountered danger, he would immediately take action. At this moment, Naruto's footsteps suddenly stopped, and a group of people appeared within the range of his perception. After sensing the chakra fluctuations on these people, he couldn't help frowning. "What's wrong, Naruto?" Makoto noticed Naruto's strangeness and couldn't help but ask. Naruto glanced at her, hesitated, and said, "There are a few ninjas ahead, should we take a detour?" Makoto's eyes lit up a little, and hurriedly said, "What kind of ninja? Is it Konoha's?" Naruto looked at her with a concerned look, and knowing that she couldn't let go of Konoha's situation, he shook his head slightly and said, "It seems that I'll take you there to take a look." The three continued to move forward and finally stopped at the edge of a river, because three ninjas had already appeared in front of them. These three people are wearing sand ninja guards on their heads, and they are the ninjas of the Sand Ninja Village. A trace of hostility flashed in Makoto's eyes, and the murderous aura on her body could not help revealing a little bit. She was slightly startled, and hurriedly restrained her aura, and lowered her head not to look at the other party. But the people from Sand Ninja Village weren't easy to fool. Makoto's fleeting murderous aura immediately caught their attention, and they saw that the eyes of the three were all focused on Makoto, with suspicious expressions on their faces. "Who are you? There are important people in front of you. You are not allowed to approach, you should take a detour," one of the three leaders said coldly. In fact, Naruto has used his perception to investigate everything around him. He just smiled and did not speak. Sarah pulled Naruto's sleeve against him. Makoto glanced at Naruto and saw that he didn't say anything, obviously intending to leave this matter to himself. But because of this, she was caught in a dilemma. With Naruto on her side, she could have easily killed these three enemies and solved some troubles for Konoha, but she knew that Naruto was unwilling to participate in the war. If you do it yourself, Naruto will inevitably be implicated, and I am afraid Naruto will be unhappy at that time. However, she really loves her village, and facing the enemies of these villages, she really wants to take action and solve them for the village. Just when she was hesitating whether or not to shoot, there were a few noises from the side. I saw that the expressions on the faces of the three Shaaren changed immediately. "No, someone is coming," one of them cried. "Get ready to fight." The other head snorted softly and said coldly to the three of Naruto, "This place is very dangerous, if you don't want to die, get out of here." After speaking, these people disappeared in place. Sarah and Makoto were taken aback. Suddenly, the sound of fierce fighting came from the front of the three. Boom boom boom. The sound of the detonating talisman exploding and the sound of ninjutsu bombardment immediately reached Naruto. Makoto's face changed slightly and looked at Naruto. "Who are they fighting?" Naruto smiled faintly and walked over to the place where the battle broke out. Makoto hurriedly followed. Approaching the battlefield, Makoto saw the specific situation, but she couldn't help but be stunned. Uchiha clan who are fighting against these three at this time. And the leading young man is her acquaintance, Uchiha Fugaku. She couldn't help but sighed softly. Makoto. The young Uchiha Fugaku also happened to see the three of Naruto. After seeing Makoto, the expression on his face couldn't help but be overjoyed. On the arm. With a sigh of relief, blood flowed from his arm, obviously he was seriously injured. When Makoto saw that his own people were cut by the enemy, his expression was slightly anxious, and he rushed up immediately, hand seal with both hands, and snorted, Kaden fire style Phoenix Sage fire technique. Several fireballs flew towards the three sand ninjas, and the unexpected three couldn't help being shocked. After reacting, they hurriedly avoided the fireball attack. "You really are an enemy." After the three of them retreated in embarrassment, they stared at the three of them on Makoto's side. Makoto glanced at Naruto apologetically, then stepped forward to stop Fugaku and said, "Hurry back and ask for help, I'll hold them back here." "No, Makoto, you can't beat them alone," Fugaku hurriedly said. He carried out the rescue operation alone, but he did not expect that he would not be able to beat these three enemies at this time. At this time, when he met Makoto, he was full of surprises, but at the same time, he felt guilty for putting her in danger by his appearance. "Stop fussing, go." Makoto turned his head and snorted softly. Fugaku froze for a moment, looking at Makoto's beautiful figure. A trace of infatuation flashed in his eyes, but the desire to survive had to force him to leave this place. Finally, he snapped at Kiba and turned and leapt out. When Makoto saw that he had finally left, he let out a breath and concentrated on dealing with these enemies. But these people all have the strength of Jonin, especially the leader of them has strength no less than her own. This battle is simply difficult to win. She glanced at Naruto and Sarah who were standing beside her, bit Kiba slightly and rushed up. Chapter 243 The Entanglement of Fugaku. At this moment, Naruto suddenly moved his arm, and Hiraishin shot out, and came to the middle of the three people in an instant. The three were stunned for a moment, greatly shocked by Naruto's sudden attack, and after reacting, they hurriedly wanted to separate the hidden weapon. Swish! In the next moment, everyone only felt that a golden light flashed in front of them, and the figure of Naruto had appeared among them. Bang bang bang! The sound of three heavy blows sounded, and Naruto smashed the bodies of the three people with 2 fists and 1 kick. Ah! The three of them groaned in unison. They didn't even see Naruto's movements before they realized that they had been hit and flew out. Under the heavy blow, they lost their combat effectiveness and lay on the ground groaning and moaning. Clapping his hands, Naruto turned directly to Makoto and said, "Let's leave." After he finished speaking, he glanced at a bush not far away with a smile on the corner of his mouth. He had already sensed that Fugaku had not left, as if coming this way. Makoto didn't dare to look him in the eyes, for fear that he would blame him for suddenly intervening, so he nodded slightly and followed him. The three of Naruto left, and along the way, Makoto began to explain to him that because she was a member of the Uchiha clan and grew up with Uchiha Fugaku, he was in danger and he had to save him. Naruto frowned. In fact, he had no dislike for Makoto's rescue of Fugaku. It was purely because other people knew what he looked like after he intervened in the battle. It didn't matter on Sandin's side, but Uchiha Fugaku on Konoha's side also saw him. Although he didn't have time to say anything at the time, Naruto still saw a strange and suspicious look from his expression. "Anyway, this time I have been exposed. So you must leave here quickly, so as not to be tracked down." Makoto thought that Naruto was angry with himself, so he lowered his head and apologized in a low voice. "Naruto, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have interfered in this battle." Hearing this, Naruto glanced at her and smiled slightly. "I can't blame you, you are a ninja of Konoha. It is very correct to have such a move. I am very happy to have a ninja like you in the village." Naruto This sentence was said purely as a Hokage, and Makoto was relieved to hear it, and put down the burden in his heart, and his face showed joy. However, the fact that Naruto has been exposed still exists, and Naruto can't help it. Wait a minute. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind the three of Naruto. Makoto turned around and found that it was the injured Fugaku. Turns out he didn't leave. And at this time, he was following two Konoha ninjas with happy expressions on their faces. It turned out that Uchiha Fugaku suddenly turned back and planned to rescue Makoto during the evacuation, but he didn't expect that Naruto had already solved the 3 sand ninjas and left, although he did not see how the 3 sand ninjas were solved, but since it has been after solving it, his own mission can be completed, so next he rescued the 2 companions captured by the 3 sand ninjas very smoothly, and chased towards Naruto. "Why don't you go back to the village?" Makoto asked with a frown upon seeing this. Fugaku had already bandaged the wound on his arm. He stepped forward and gave Naruto a surprised look, and said to Makoto, "I'm here to take you back, Makoto, I hope you can go back to the village with me." Makoto was stunned for a moment, and then said lightly, "Don't you know the current situation in the village? After I go back, I will only be suspected and assassinated. It's good for me to follow Naruto now, you can treat me as dead on the battlefield. All right. No, no, you have to go back to the village. The Uchiha clan will protect you. Fugaku became anxious. He glanced at Naruto and suddenly asked, are you called Naruto? Why are you so similar to Minato? If it's not that I know Minato very well, I almost thought you were him. Anyway, Makoto, thank you for taking care of me, and I will take her to the clan from now on to complete our engagement ceremony. Naruto looked surprised, and just as he was about to speak, Makoto exclaimed, Hey, Fugaku, what nonsense are you talking about? When am I going to get engaged to you? Seeing her anxious, Fugaku hurriedly smiled and said, as a candidate for the Uchiha clan's patriarch, this time I successfully rescued a few of my companions and made a great contribution. After returning home, your father is willing to betroth you to me. Makoto, I like you so much, don't you want it? And once you become my fiancé, you will no longer be suspected by the village, and the Uchiha family will give you the greatest protection. Makoto, we grew up together, how can I have the heart to see you wiped out by the village? Makoto was shocked by his series of words, and after hearing his words, he couldn't help but froze in place. Is his father going to marry him to Fugaku? After becoming Fugaku's wife, he will be sheltered by the Uchiha clan. However, although all this sounds beautiful, in my heart I don't want to marry Fugaku at all. Although the two grew up together, I don't have any feelings for him at all. How can I marry him? Makoto, Makoto, Fugaku couldn't help urging, seeing her stunned. Makoto gave him a complicated look, shook his head slowly and said, I'm sorry, Fugaku, I can't go back with you, I won't marry you. Hearing that, Fugaku was struck by lightning and stopped in place. He looked at Makoto with pain on his face. Why, Makoto, why is this? You won't agree to me. I have always liked you for so many years. But I don't like you. Makoto sighed. To be honest, he grew up with him, and at this moment, he really didn't understand why he rejected him, but he really rejected him. After refusing, she became more relaxed, and everything Fugaku said before seemed to be blown away like a gust of wind. Fugaku didn't seem to be able to take the blow, and stood there blankly, his face full of incredulity. At this time, Naruto, who had been watching the play, suddenly looked at Makoto and asked, why didn't you agree to him? Hearing his tone, Makoto seemed to wish that he would marry Fugaku. He couldn't help feeling a little annoyed. He gave him a secret glance and said, anyway, I just don't like him, huh? What's your business? Naruto smiled wryly, touched his nose, and smiled shyly. This is good, it's going to change. Makoto doesn't like Fugaku anymore, the plot is about to collapse. But he couldn't say anything for a while. Could it be that he still held Kuugia around Makoto's neck and said, if you don't marry Fugaku, how would Sayu be born? How is the story going? Moreover, after getting along for the past few days, Naruto also had a faint idea of not wanting her to marry someone else, although he didn't even realize this idea. Chapter 244 Rebuke. 3 Turn to leave, ignoring Fugaku. The sky will darken, and the three of Naruto came to a small valley, temporarily stationed, and planned to camp here tonight. Sarah was setting up and arranging the camping thing, Makoto was sitting aside as if thinking about his thoughts, and Naruto went around to lay various enchantments and get food. Beside the fire, the three of them were leaning against each other and eating barbecue with relish. Sarah wiped her oily soft lips and asked Makoto, Makoto sister, why did you reject that guy just now? Makoto glanced at her, his expression flickered slightly, he glanced at Naruto quietly, and sighed slightly, I don't want to marry someone I don't like. Sarah nodded, but that guy seems to say that he grew up with you, a childhood sweetheart. I really don't understand why you would refuse. Makoto was a little upset by her question, and ripped a mouthful of roast meat indiscriminately, then turned around and stopped talking. Seeing that she didn't want to talk more, Sarah stopped pestering her and sat next to Naruto and chatted with him. Shinye is blurred. In this era of war, I am afraid the most beautiful thing is the starry sky at night. It is a pity that those who are in the midst of war should not have the mood to calm down and appreciate it. Naruto was lying on the grass, looking up at the night sky and thinking. Sarah was also lying beside him, but she had already fallen asleep, her delicate profile face leaning on the crook of his arm, her face sleeping comfortably. Makoto, who was still sitting not far away and didn't fall asleep, with a thoughtful look in his eyes. The next day, the three continued on their way. This time, they planned to leave the village of Konoha and go to other remote places. However, the sky did not fulfill his wishes. Naruto was already involved in the battle, and it was impossible to escape. Because, in his perception, someone has stopped in front of them. The next moment, dozens of figures appeared. The sudden appearance of dozens of figures made Sarah startled and hurriedly approached Naruto, while Makoto was slightly taken a step back and looked at them in surprise. "Fugaku, what do you mean?" she asked with a little anger on her face. Because among these people he saw Fugaku. Did not expect things to develop to this stage. "Makoto, this time I brought the second elder here," Fugaku exclaimed. "Father." Makoto looked at the middle-aged man at the head and called respectfully. "Bastard." The middle-aged man was dressed in Jonin clothes, holding a long knife in his hand. The blade exuded a bloody aura. He looked at Makoto with extremely sharp eyes and shouted, "Fugaku asked you to come back, why don't you listen?" At the same time, 4 ninja cronies walked out from behind him and walked towards Makoto, as if he wanted to force her back. Seeing this, Makoto was a little afraid of her father's majesty, but she still insisted, "Father, if I go back, I will be suspected by the village, and may even cause trouble to the Uchiha family." "Shut up," Makoto's father snapped. "Don't use these excuses to perfunctory me. Now that the village is in desperate need of combat power, how could it be possible to trouble our Uchiha clan? Although you are suspected of being a spy by the upper echelons, as long as you are engaged to Fugaku, give you a more stable status, and the upper echelons of the village will not come back to embarrass you. You have already prepared so much for you, yet you still haven't come back. What are you thinking about?" Quote. Makoto was speechless by her father's harsh words, and she looked at Naruto as if asking for help, hoping he could say a few words for herself. At this time, Makoto's father also saw Naruto. From Fugaku's mouth, he had already learned the basic information of Naruto. He had no good feelings for this guy who looked very much like Namikaze Minato. Looking at Naruto coldly, Makoto's father said lightly, "Although I don't know what your relationship is with Namikaze, but if you just want to tempt my Makoto with your little white face, you should die as soon as possible." "Well, Makoto is from the Uchiha clan, you can't climb high." "Father," Makoto shouted in a hurry when he heard his father's words, his face even brighter than Yuhi. "I was very embarrassed in my heart. I didn't expect my father to think about this. I rejected Fugaku just because I didn't have feelings for him. I didn't want to decide my future so easily, but he actually involved Naruto." This made her feel guilty for a while, thinking that since she met him, she has indeed caused him so much trouble, and now she still has to make him suffer from his father's criticism and reprimand. "Humph, sure enough, you didn't come back because of him," the second elder, Makoto's father, said annoyed. "It's better that you don't bother with someone of unknown origin like him. Hurry up and go back with me obediently. Let's get married to Fugaku." Makoto looked anxious. Naruto's face was speechless. He was the 6th generation of Hokage after all, but now he was reprimanded by the elders of the family for nothing, and was also listed as a little white face who seduced girls from a good family. He really wanted to laugh out loud 3 times, it was so funny. However, at this moment, Sarah, who had been standing beside Naruto, couldn't listen anymore. She didn't want Naruto to be treated like this, and she couldn't help but take a step forward and puffed out her chest. "Bastard. Why are you doing this? Talk." Sister Makoto is reluctant to go back because she doesn't want to marry that person. What does it have to do with Naruto? Naruto is the most powerful person in the world, and it's not your turn to comment. She said loudly and forcefully under her speech. she showed the demeanor of a queen. She's also Queen Sarah of Roran. Hearing what this beautiful girl said, everyone on the opposite side started talking. Some said that the girl was beautiful, some said that she was naive and ignorant, and some even used this to lead Naruto to Naruto. Scum. Anyway, Naruto was frowning when he heard it, and he never liked to care about other people's words, so he couldn't help but get a little angry at this moment. At this time, Makoto's father sneered, nodded and looked at Naruto. Well, since you were blown so badly by her, do you dare to come out and fight Fugaku? No, father, Makoto quickly persuaded. Naruto Stop talking nonsense. We don't have much time, let's fight quickly. However, he ignored Makoto's words and interrupted directly. Naruto shook his head secretly. He had already seen Fugaku come out and draw his dagger, ready to fight. Makoto is in a dilemma. Father and Fugaku don't understand Naruto's strength at all. This time there will definitely be a big problem. Chapter 245 Instant Fugaku. The face of this naked challenge. Naruto was very disdainful and thought it was very boring, but Makoto's father and Fugaku seemed to want to beat themselves up, and the crowd was so excited that they couldn't tolerate themselves at all. Reject. He stepped forward and sighed. Do you have to let me do it? Makoto hurriedly stepped forward and stopped in front of Naruto, begging, Naruto, why don't you settle with them? I will persuade my father and them. I don't want you to fall out with them. Naruto shrugged nonchalantly and took a step back. Humph, only hiding behind women. It's really a manly man. At this time, seeing Naruto's actions, Fugaku sneered and sneered. Naruto glanced at him slightly, but did not speak, but a trace of disappointment flashed on his face. As Zuoyu's father, the future patriarch of the Uchiha clan, he couldn't hold his breath and sneered at others. Long standard. Of course Naruto doesn't care, but his impression of Fugaku has become very bad. He thinks that if Makoto is really married to such a guy, it's really wrong. However, just because Naruto didn't speak, it didn't mean that Sarah, who was beside him, would tolerate it. Naruto had a very special place in her heart. Hearing Fugaku taunting him like this, he immediately retorted, Naruto is discordant. You care, don't be too aggressive. The situation stagnated for a while. Makoto ran over to his father and kept talking for Naruto, and said that he was not willing to go back to the village and get engaged to Fugaku. However, no matter how hard she begged, Makoto's father always disapproved with a cold face. Instead, he scolded her for being disobedient, and even pressed her with a family of sinners. After speaking, the second elder snorted coldly, Okay. Makoto, I don't have time for you to choose now, either obediently go back with us, or force you to go back. Makoto couldn't help but tremble. Hearing his father's extremely stern tone, it was obvious that he was really angry. If it goes on like this, I'm afraid he really can do it. For a time, she struggled in her heart. At this moment, Naruto couldn't stand it anymore, and said to Makoto, Makoto, if you don't want to go back, stick to your own ideas. With me here, I'll see who dares to touch you. After speaking, he took a step forward. Glancing at the crowd lightly, a natural aura of coercion spread out, everyone's hearts sank, and their faces changed drastically. Arrogant. The second elder was also slightly surprised at this time. He judged his strength from Naruto's aura, but he had enough people on his side. Even if this kid really has some skills, can he still defy the sky? Can't do it. Moreover, the most annoying thing is that he dared to challenge himself. Except for the chief elder and the patriarch, almost no one in the clan dared to speak like this in front of him. How could he, a nameless boy, be so dragged in front of him? Elder, let's teach him a lesson. After the second elder gave a deep shout, several young ninjas next to him rushed towards Naruto. Stop, you guys. Makoto didn't want the two to fight. He hurriedly came to Naruto with a flash, and opened his arms to block in front of him. The ninjas had to stop what they were doing and stood there looking at each other. Fugaku, who was on the side, saw that Makoto actually defended Naruto so much, and he couldn't help but feel extremely jealous. He bit Kiba, suddenly shouted and attacked Naruto's back from behind, and stabbed him with a sharp long knife in his hand. Naruto was already getting impatient at this time, just these guys nagging for a long time. Makoto was struggling for a long time, he was already embarrassed for her. If he really didn't do something, then it's so boring. So at this time, aware of Fugaku's attack, Naruto couldn't help showing a smile on his face. Just when Fugaku's long sword came to his back, Naruto suddenly shifted sideways, easily avoiding his attack, and then he stretched out his palm in front of him, and instantly grabbed his hand holding the sword. And then with a click, with a slight twist, Fugaku groaned, his wrist dislocated immediately, the long knife in his hand could no longer be held, and fell to the ground with a clang. Fugaku's face was startled, and he was about to fight back, but he felt a fist flash in front of him and a slamming blow on his cheek. Ah! With a scream, his body was knocked out by Naruto's punch, and he fell to the ground and couldn't stand up again. He was extremely shocked, too powerful. Even if he turned on Sharingan, he couldn't see his movements. Even if you feel the danger, you can't stop it. I have never seen such a powerful opponent. Who is he? Fugaku was so full of fear that he rolled his eyes and fainted. This series of actions only happened in an instant, even the Sharingan of the Uchiha family. It is difficult to see the speed trajectory of Naruto when he made this set of actions, which is enough to show the powerful strength of Naruto in art. Naruto turned around and glanced at everyone with a smile on his face. Everyone on the opposite side took a step back in shock, and cold sweat broke out behind them. The second elder saw Naruto's strength, and he had to pay attention at this time. Fugaku is the elite of the younger generation in the clan. Although he is not the strongest, his strength has surpassed Jonin, and he is not far from the elite Jonin. Unexpectedly, his sneak attack actually resulted in a spike. Immediately, everyone turned their inconceivable eyes to Naruto, looking at him with great vigilance. Naruto's current strength has already surpassed Kage level, unless it is someone like Heavenly Path Pain or Jiraiya in Sage mode. Others have been unable to arouse his interest in fighting. So, he just glanced at these people, smiled and said to Makoto, "Makoto, let's go and stay away from this war." Makoto was also shocked by Naruto's sudden attack just now. Although she knew that Naruto was very powerful, she still didn't have a specific concept. It was not until Fugaku was defeated so easily and quickly that she finally realized his power. That is definitely not the powerhouse at his level. Hearing his plain words at this time, she suddenly felt an involuntary obedience in her heart. She nodded immediately and came to him. Sarah wrinkled her nose at the second elders and everyone, and snorted, "I tell you to underestimate Naruto." "Okay, don't cause any trouble, let's go." Naruto patted Sarah's head, smiled slightly, turned and walked forward with the two women. However, just when he thought that the second elder and others would give up, he suddenly noticed a heat wave behind him, and he couldn't help frowning. Turning around, I saw violent flames blowing in front of me, as if they wanted to burn all three of Naruto to ashes. Can't let them go. Such a powerful enemy must keep him here, otherwise it may be detrimental to our Uchiha clan and the village. The second elder directed everyone to rush forward and shouted sharply. Chapter 246 Shake Back. Naruto was a little helpless when he saw this. These people really didn't know how to advance or retreat. Even though the other party was Makoto's father, he already had the idea of stomping him under his feet. In the face of several scorching flames, Naruto took the two women and slammed into the sky. Up there! Great opportunity! The second elder saw Naruto in midair unable to exert his strength, and immediately shouted and directed the crowd to attack Naruto. Suddenly, a large piece of ninjutsu mixed with the rain of hidden weapons flew towards them. Naruto's brows furrowed. Looking at this posture, they didn't care about the safety of Makoto and Sarah at all. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and the next moment he released the two women and directly separated into a clone. Makoto's own strength is not bad. After being released, he falls directly to the ground and retreats, while Sarah is protected by his clone. Naruto's body was in midair, his palms stretched forward, and a 10-meter-wide spiral protective wall suddenly formed, blocking all the incoming attacks. The ninjutsu was smashed by the spiral energy, and the hidden weapons also bounced back. Seeing that the attack was fruitless, everyone was shocked. However, he saw that Naruto had already landed at this time, with hand seals in his hands, and the speed was so fast that it became an afterimage. Futon, wind style, wind blade dance. Hoo hoo hoo. Countless sharp wind blades formed in midair and swept away towards everyone on the opposite side. Doden, earth style, earth flow wall. The people on the opposite side also used defensive ninjutsu to block in front of them, resisting Naruto's fierce futon, wind style, attack. Boom boom boom. The wind blade hit the stone wall of Doden, earth style, and there were bursts of explosions. The chakra contained in the wind blade directly shattered the hard stone wall, and the gravel flew all over the sky for a while, covering the sky. The eyes of the people. What a strong futon, wind style. Chakra is so strong. Someone couldn't help but sigh. Yeah, I've never seen futon, wind style, ninjutsu with such a wide range of damage and such powerful power. Another said. At this time, the smoke finally slowly dissipated, and everyone in Uchiha stared vigilantly at the space in front of them. Suddenly, a gust of wind rushed through, and everyone took a step back. When they saw the scene in front of them again, they couldn't help but open their mouths and their faces were dull. I saw dozens of Naruto in front of them, all of them were shadow clones. It didn't matter, the most important thing was that each shadow clone had one hand facing the sky, and above their heads hung a blue chakra with a diameter of 10 meters. Carrot ball. The momentum emitted by each chakra ball is enough to cause a gust of wind. When dozens of chakra balls are displayed in front of everyone, no one dares to face the incomparably powerful coercion and gust of wind. Makoto's father, the second elder, couldn't help but be shocked. What happened to this powerful chakra? This is simply a humanoid-tailed beast. What is the origin of this guy? Why is there such a strong chakra? At this time, Naruto and his many shadow clones had already rushed towards each other with the huge Rasengan in their hands. Feeling the huge chakra that was suppressed just by looking at it, these people finally felt fear in their hearts, and the hand holding the weapon couldn't help but tremble. They couldn't help but complain about the second elder's stupid decision. Why should they let their own people fight against such a formidable opponent? The other party obviously planned to leave, but now it's better, angering others, and everyone will die here. At this moment, Makoto's voice finally came. Naruto, stop. Please don't hurt them. Hearing this, Naruto stopped and pouted, and all the Rasengans in Shadow Clone's hands instantly dissipated, and the Shadow Clone also untied. Since Makoto is willing to spare your life, I will let you go, but I warn you again, if you continue to entangle again, it will never be so easy next time. Seeing Makoto rush over and hug him arm, Naruto said coldly towards the crowd opposite. Chi-Chi heaved a sigh of relief when everyone was on the verge of amnesty. The second elder gave Makoto a complicated look, and finally sighed and turned away. The rest of them also turned around and left. When everyone left, Makoto finally sat down on the ground helplessly, covering his face and crying. Sarah came over and crouched down to comfort her gently. What should I do? What should I do? In the past few days, she had suffered the destruction of her companions on the battlefield, and she was suspected when she returned to the village, and then she was assassinated by the upper echelons of the village. Now even her father is forcing her. She felt that she had become a rootless duckweed, and the world seemed to have no place for herself. Naruto stepped forward to help her up and comforted her softly. Makoto, even if you are abandoned by a family, what if you are suspected by the village? As long as you don't give up yourself, and you don't have nothing now, at least you have me and Sa-Pole by your side. Makoto trembled upon hearing this, and looked up at Naruto's gentle smiling face. At this moment, her heart was suddenly no longer confused and afraid. Yes, Naruto and Sarah were with her, and she was not alone. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel relieved. those big eyes that were a little swollen from crying looked at Naruto and Sarah gratefully. Thank you, thank you. Sarah smiled slightly. You're welcome, Sister Makoto, I can always call you sister as long as you want. Naruto also said, it is fate to be able to come together in this war era. No matter what difficulties you have in the future, I will help you. Makoto was once again moved by the sincere words of the two, and couldn't help but threw himself into Naruto's arms and cried. After a long time, when all the clothes on Naruto's chest were soaked, Makoto stopped crying. She calmed down and found herself in Naruto's arms. Her face couldn't help but get a big yuhi, and she backed away a few times in embarrassment. Stepping forward, he said apologetically to Naruto, I'm so sorry, Naruto, I lost my way. Naruto smiled slightly, it's fine. Looking at her slightly yuhi face, Naruto couldn't help but think of Sayu. The two of them looked exactly like Yuhi. Unfortunately. Naruto sighed suddenly. What's wrong? Makoto asked hurriedly when he saw him sigh. It's okay, let's go. Naruto immediately hid his worries and regrets, shook his head and said to the two of them. The Makoto girls couldn't ask anything, so they had to give up. The storm has been stirred up. Chapter 247 The Ever-Increasing Danger. At this time in Konoha village, due to the war, a battle command was temporarily established in the village. 3 generations of the village were in charge, with several elite ninjas and high-level deputies as their deputy, and a meticulous battle plan was being formulated. The 3rd generation, who has passed the middle age, has a trace of wrinkles on his face, but overall he still looks very strong and powerful, and his body is full of momentum. At this moment, the 2nd elder Uchiha suddenly ran in a hurry. Are you sure you read it right? When the 2nd elder reported the matter to the 3rd generation, the 3rd generation was full of surprise. Well, absolutely not. That person's taijutsu and chakra are very powerful, and his futon wind style ninjutsu is still rare. The 2nd elder said. 3 generations of you can't help frowning when you hear this. Your heart is full of doubts, he suddenly exclaimed. Minato, what do you think about this matter? With a swoosh, a handsome guy with blonde hair and blue eyes appeared in front of several people and said with a smile. 3 generations of adults, as far as I know, there are not many futon wind-style ninjutsu experts in Konoha village, and there are not many with I look like the person I imagined. I think it may be a ninja from another village. But that person really looks like you. The 2nd elder said. Minato, do you have any brothers out there? I was an orphan since I was a child, and I still don't know who my parents are when I grew up. I don't know if there are any brothers. However, you said just now that he would use a kind of ninjutsu that condenses chakra into the palm of his hand, right? Saying that, Minato stretched out his palm, and a Rasengan suddenly gathered. Is that so? The 2nd elder was slightly startled when he saw it, and nodded again and again. Yes, it's this ninjutsu. But the volume used by that person is bigger than yours. Huh, this time, it was Minato's turn to be surprised. This is his own ninjutsu. How could someone else use it better than himself? He asked. How much better is his technique than mine? Hearing this, the 2nd elder couldn't help but flash of fear in his eyes. He imagined the scene at that time, swallowed his saliva and said slowly, his diameter is at least 10 meters. 10 meters. This time, even the 3 generations were shocked when they heard it, and Minato couldn't believe it. After dispersing the Rasengan in his hand, he muttered to himself, this is impossible. However, seeing the expression of the 2nd elder did not have any element of lying, and finally Minato and Sandai had to accept the fact, and they were full of curiosity about the existence of that mysterious person. Let's put this matter aside for a while, and see that the person doesn't seem to want to be detrimental to Konoha, otherwise all of you will not be able to come back. As for the war on Shinobi Village, I just got the news that the troops of Sand Shinobi Village have already entered the territory of the Fire Country, and the front line is already asking for support. Moreover, Iwagakure is already provoking war. Quote. At this tense moment of the war, Naruto and Makoto Sarah were chatting and laughing. After Naruto and Sarah's comfort and guidance, Makoto has come out of the adversity. In this era of war and chaos, she was fortunate that she had met Naruto. If he hadn't been by her side all the time, she might have died long ago. Thinking of this, looking at Naruto's back, her heart warmed. However, seeing Sarah talking and laughing with him, she couldn't help but feel a tinge of sadness in her heart. In this way, the three kept walking in the ninja world, and encountered several wars during the period, but they were easily resolved by Naruto. Seeing him so powerful that he ignored any danger at all, Makoto hesitated a few times. Sarah is very diligent in practicing chakra. In the past few days, she has already mastered a basic avatar technique. Although Naruto is a good teacher to guide her, she has to admire her talent for such a result. On this day, the three came to the vicinity of the Land of Earth along the border of the Land of Fire. The landscape here presents a scene of coexistence of forests and rocks, with sparse trees growing on the bare rocks. It also seems to be very desolate here. Sarah looked around and said involuntarily at the miserable scene around her. Makoto also looked around and said, the surroundings here seem to be a little strangely quiet. Hearing what he said, Naruto couldn't help but raise his vigilance, and after spreading it out with his perception, he didn't notice anything unusual. But there was something wrong with Makoto's words. Let's leave quickly, Naruto said. Oh, Makoto and Sarah both nodded. The atmosphere here is indeed not right, the air is full of a strong and solemn aura. So the three of them continued to move forward. However, the further they walked, the stronger the faint murderous aura in the air. Suddenly, a clear look flashed across Naruto's face. Really, no wonder I feel something is wrong. It turns out that we walked into a trap set up by others. Naruto suddenly said, are you ready? It seems that we are going to retreat again. After he finished speaking, he wrapped his arms around the two girls with one hand, and with the other he took out Hiraishin Kue and threw it towards the space above his head. Kuwu cut through the air, above the clouds. The next moment, a violent vibration suddenly came from the ground. The ground under Naruto's feet cracked instantly, but at the same time, his figure also turned into golden light and disappeared in place. Boom boom boom. In the next instant, the earth cracked, and countless explosions rushed from the ground. The land exploded in an instant, and the entire space was filled with firelight and gravel in an instant. Naruto and the two women just appeared in the sky above where Hiraishin Kunai was. Looking at the violent explosions that kept coming from below, the explosions covered a range of several kilometers, and the monstrous firelight and thick smoke and dust raised almost obscured all sight. The waves of heat hit the face, and even if it stretched out to the height of 1,000 meters, you could still feel the scorching waves. How could this be? Seeing this scene, the two women hanging tightly on Naruto's body could not help but open their mouths in shock. Their hearts are all fortunate now. If Naruto flashed so fast, I'm afraid the three of them would have died. To be blown to pieces in this explosion. Chapter 248 Challenge Time. Looking at the land below, which was completely shrouded in the smoke and dust of the explosion, Naruto did not dare to be negligent and did not fall down immediately, but continued to use Hiraishin as a medium to flicker in midair, thereby staying in midair and not falling on the ground. Finally, the smoke and dust on the spot were slowly blown away by the wind, and the three of Naruto jumped to a high mountain peak, looking at the potholes around the ground. I didn't expect that the ground was full of detonating talismans. Makoto covered his mouth and whispered, who is it that killed us? To ambush us in such a large-scale and indiscriminate way of killing. Sarah leaned against Naruto's arm with lingering fears, and her face was full of worry and resentment. Naruto shook his head slightly and smiled bitterly. His eyes looked to the horizon not far away. I saw that there was a team of ninja troops with hundreds of thousands of people rushing towards this side, accompanied by shouting and killing. The momentum was monstrous. Those are ninja troops. Makoto also noticed the abnormality, and couldn't help but change his face. They seem to be rushing towards us, Sarah said. Naruto stood on the spot and looked at the group of ninjas who were approaching aggressively. His footsteps didn't seem to move. He wanted to see, what could these people do to him? Over the past few days, he has also been plagued by the troubles caused by various wars. He has been running around like a lost dog, and now he has to endure repeated attacks. This time, the large-scale detonation charm ambush, if it wasn't for the fact that he had a super sense of perception, and already had a hint of the ability to predict danger, I am afraid that he would be overwhelmed by these explosions, right? Although I have never wanted to participate in this war, and I do not want to destroy the original historical trajectory, the problem is that maybe I will never be able to go back to that time and space. In this case, what is the use of all these escapes? In the end, it's just making your life worse. Moreover, you always have people around you who need to be guarded, and one's tolerance and escape will only make the danger more unscrupulous. Therefore, at this time, he secretly made a decision in his heart. No matter what history will turn out, he will stop this war. Build a new order. While he was thinking about this, the group of ninja troops had already rushed to the foot of the hill where Naruto was, and they looked up at Naruto with a slight fear on their faces. Yellow Flash, you can't even kill you with a trap like this. One of the leading leaders shouted, looking at Naruto. Yellow Flash. Naruto was slightly taken aback when he heard the words, and then he laughed. It seems that you idiots have made a mistake. Bastard. This time, we must kill you with the help of everyone. The leader heard Naruto scolding himself, and suddenly became angry. Even if you are the famous Yellow Flash in the ninja world, you can't deal with our Iwagakure village alone. Many elites. Die. It turned out that these ninja troops were the ninjas of Iwagakure village. They provoked Konoha village in advance, but they were worried that Konoha's Yellow Flash Namikaze Minato would come to make trouble, so after the spy got the news, they immediately set up an ambush and waited here. His arrival. It's just that they seem to have identified the wrong person, and it can only be said that Naruto looks too much like Minato, and the technique of Hiraishin makes it impossible to doubt his identity. However, at this time, there were sentient ninjas in the Iwagakure village unit who had noticed something was wrong. Because compared to Minato, Naruto's chakra is stronger, and there are some differences from the intelligence. For example, the origins and identities of the two girls around him are unknown. These inconsistencies with the original intelligence make these people puzzled. But time did not give them a chance to raise this, because the leader had already directed the crowd to attack Naruto. Thousands of people rushed towards Naruto one by one, like locusts densely packed, making it difficult to see such a powerful attack. If it were another ordinary ninja, he would have been too scared to move, but Naruto is different, he is not afraid of group battles. Even if there are twice as many people, he will not have the slightest fear. Compared to the third-generation Hokage's record of 10,000 enemies, and now there are only about 1,000 troops, Naruto will not have any burden at all. Moreover, he was already a little annoyed, and he desperately needed a fight to vent. As for his worries that he will change history and change the plot, he has stopped thinking about it. Traveling through time and space is already the biggest bug. If the traveler still needs to be bound by fate, history, etc. Live more depressed. So, let this battle be regarded as a challenge to time and space. Naruto's eyes became more determined. He closed his eyes, his hands slammed together, and an incomparably tyrannical chakra aura emanated, and the opportunity made everyone's hearts tremble. Immediately afterwards, with Naruto's body as the center, countless sturdy tree stems suddenly appeared on the ground around him, densely flying straight into the air toward his ninjas. Most of those ninjas hadn't reacted yet, and even some who had reacted had no time to avoid them, and they were all wrapped up by the thick tree stems. Naruto closed his eyes. Within the range of his perception, it seems that even if he can feel the maliciousness of the opponent without opening his eyes, the Mokuden wood-style technique will find the opponent's location very smoothly. Keep it under control. This blow, almost hundreds of people were caught by Mokuden wood-style. Immediately, the scene was shocked. Impossible. This is the Mokuden wood-style technique of the original Hokage. Why do you use it? Oh my god. This is Mokuden wood style. Has Mokuden wood style actually reappeared? Why is such important information not known? What does Namikaze Minato have to do with the first generation to use the Mokuden wood style technique? It's unbelievable. It's over. We have no chance against Mokuden wood style. Immediately, the wailing and sighing of the crowd came one after another, and the faces of those who were wrapped up by Mokuden wood style were full of despair. Others are ready to run away. The leader was also shocked by Naruto's sudden hand, but compared to those ordinary ninjas, he was relatively calm, and tried hard to direct everyone to rescue other trapped partners. But Naruto didn't give them this chance at all. His chakra was injected into Mokuden wood style again, and he controlled the trees to besiege all the ninjas. Suddenly, all the surrounding tree stems grew frantically again. It quickly extended to the surroundings, and at this moment, Naruto's Mokuden wood style suddenly changed a little bit, and strands of chakra were suddenly pulled out from those entangled ninjas, and were caught by Mokuden wood style. Naruto's chakra absorbed and merged, and turned into a thicker and firmer stem to grow to the outside world. Chapter 249 The Mutation of Mokuden wood style. Mokuden wood style chakra sucking. Naruto was slightly overjoyed. He didn't expect to learn this trick suddenly. Could it be that he thought that his mood had changed just now? He gradually stopped the output of his own chakra, and only used the chakra absorbed from the enemy for the growth of Mokuden wood style. Gradually, the growth of these Mokuden wood style became more crazy. When the others were about to rescue their companions, they found that another large swath of tree stems rushed over in a hurry, leaving no time to take care of the trapped companions. Damn, these things are so troublesome. They are everywhere. The ninjas fled and jumped around, but those tree stems seemed to have identified where they were, and attacked extremely quickly. Entangled. Of course, there are also ninjas who continue to use ninjutsu to counterattack, but these Mokuden's wood style are extremely strong, and there are countless numbers. Faced with the entanglement of these tree stems, the ninjas are really miserable. They really want to use large-scale attack ninjutsu to deal with it, but there are also many controlled companions around, and there is no way to use them. Moreover, as Mokuden wood style becomes more and more lush, the surrounding area of thousands of meters has been surrounded by Mokuden wood style techniques. It's like a virgin jungle. The ninjas in it were struggling, and Naruto, who used Mokuden wood style with his eyes closed, was already sitting on the ground slowly. He could feel that not only the chakras of the ninjas were absorbed into the Mokuden wood style at this time, but also countless chakra trickles in the surrounding nature were converging towards the tree stems. Naruto's mind has completely sunk into it, and those chakras from ninjas and nature are merging with his own chakras at a fast speed to form a brand new powerful chakra. These chakras acted on Mokuden wood style, causing these tree stems to grow wildly, and extend out for 1,000 meters in a moment, almost changing the surrounding rocky landscape. Naruto seems to have closed his eyes and seems to have no consciousness, because he has been immersed in the process of continuous growth. He only feels that every tree stem has become an extension of his own spirit. However, Naruto gradually felt a sense of powerlessness. Those chakras that were wanton fusion, and the trees that were growing wildly seemed to have signs of being out of control and unable to be contained. Naruto's heart trembled suddenly, and he suddenly woke up from the sinking state of mind, and cold sweat broke out on his face. It's so dangerous. He was almost devoured and assimilated by nature. Just now, my spiritual energy extended along the branches of Mokuden wood style and merged with the surrounding natural chakra and the enemy's chakra to form a new chakra. This feeling is good, but because of this natural the chakras are too huge and seem to be extremely difficult to control. In the end, it seems that my spirit can no longer control their fusion, but the fusion of these chakras still does not stop. If you continue, I am afraid that my spirit will be extracted cleanly by this fusion, and the ultimate price will be to evolve into a large forest. Fortunately, he realized something was wrong in time, and quickly recovered from this state. His spirit returned to his body, all the tree stems stopped absorbing enemy chakra and natural chakra, and the forest finally stopped growing. Opening his eyes, Naruto stood up and looked out at the large lush forest. Even if he saw it himself, he was startled. And those ninjas trapped in the forest, most of them have been exhausted by these crazy Mokuden wood style, especially those ninjas who are entangled. The chakras on their bodies have also been absorbed. Phew, all of them looked sluggish. Beside Naruto, Makoto looked at the surrounding scene with a dull expression. She turned her head mechanically, stared at him with beautiful eyes, and said blankly, Naruto, Naruto, these are you do. Naruto smiled a little distressed, then nodded. It seems that the Mokuden wood style that he suddenly used scared Makoto. You must know that Mokuden wood style is the original secret technique of the first Hokage who established the ninja village to calm down the world, and no one has used it yet. But at this time Naruto was able to use it, and it was almost unimaginable to see the momentum. Mokuden wood style. Naruto, you actually know Mokuden wood style. What the hell is going on? Naruto, who are you? At this moment, although he already trusted Naruto very much, Makoto couldn't help but ask the question again. Naruto shook his head, smiled bitterly, and stopped talking. Originally, in order not to cause trouble, he didn't want to expose the Mokuden wood style technique in the ninja world, so since he and Sarah walked out of Rorin, he never used it in front of others. Even Makoto was no exception. However, this time Naruto, who was determined not to run away from the war, no longer had any worries of one kind or another. He just wanted to end this troublesome war with his own strength. For Naruto, this is his challenge to fate and history, because he knows that once he intervenes, a series of events will completely distort and change the course of history. Variety. But he no longer has to worry about these. Since he is a time travel family, he can't be afraid of changing time and space, because time travel itself is a way to change time and space. Moreover, Naruto also had a vague guess in his heart that maybe this spacetime is not the original spacetime, but a parallel space that exists relative to that spacetime, which is equivalent to two unrelated parallel worlds. And this kind of speculation, Naruto is not without basis, because during this period of time, he found that he could not contact the toads of Mount Myoboku, but he could still feel that the power of the psychic contract had not disappeared, but even so he can't contact Mount Myoboku in this world again, which can only mean that there is no psychic contract between Mount Myoboku in this time and space, and the real psychic contract is connected to the original world. In other words, everything in this world is very likely to be a different world that is exactly the same as the original world. After thinking about all this, Naruto's worries have all been put aside. He glanced at the many trees and struggling ninjas around, and said, let's go, let's end this war. Makoto and Sarah both froze. Chapter 250 Start to Act. In the village of Konoha, Sandai looked at the information at hand with tangled and shocked expressions on his face. Hey, he actually knows Mokuden wood style. He murmured. The ambush troops in Iwagakure village were subdued by him alone. Yeah, the third generation. When I rushed over, I only saw a forest of trees, and I saw ninjas from Iwagakure village retreating one after another. After I secretly followed and checked, I found that all these ninjas in Iwagakure village were all. He was defeated by that person. Minato suddenly appeared and said, his face was full of eagerness to try. I really want to meet that guy. The third generation shook his head full of doubts and said, this person's origin is unknown, and he still uses Mokuden wood style. Is it a Senju clan? But there are no masters in the Senju clan now. Having said this, he became a little worried again. Uchiha Makoto seems to be still on his side. What is this guy trying to do? Do you think he will be bad for Konoha? After listening, Minato pondered for a while and analyzed. I don't think he was deliberately targeting anyone. Makoto seemed to follow him voluntarily, and according to my investigation, that person did not use Mokuden wood style after he used it. Killing anyone, those Iwagakure ninjas just seem to be mostly out of power. I don't think he likes killing, and such people shouldn't be detrimental to Konoha for no reason. Hey, I hope, Minato, you just see things too beautifully. Sandai sighed slightly. Minato scratched his head. maybe because that guy is more like me, there is always an inexplicable intimacy. At this time, the three of Naruto are turning back, and the goal is the Land of Wind. Naruto, did you say you were going to stop the war? Makoto asked excitedly, following Naruto step by step. Naruto nodded. Well, the cause of this war is in the village of Sand Ninja, we will go there now. Naruto, how are you going to stop the war? Sarah asked curiously. Hearing this, Naruto pondered for a while, then glanced at the two women again and said, actually, the war is just for the benefit of various countries. You said that if a country is about to face huge losses, even if it wins the war, will they be willing to continue to the extent that they can't get it back? Huh, Naruto, you mean? Makoto was stunned for a moment, then he seemed to understand something and frowned. Could it be that you want to threaten those countries? The corner of Naruto's mouth twitched slightly. You're crazy. Aren't you afraid of becoming the public enemy of the entire ninja world? At that time, everyone joined forces to deal with you. No matter how powerful you are, you can't stand it, right? Makoto immediately exclaimed when she saw this, and she hurriedly stopped her. Naruto's big hands hurriedly said, you can't do this, Naruto. This will put you in great danger. Sarah also understood the seriousness of it, but after she knew that Naruto actually wanted to use his own strength to compete with various countries, just for the peace of the ninja world, her mood became extremely surging. Naruto, I will be with you, no matter what decision you make, I will support you. Sarah said firmly. Makoto felt helpless when he heard it, but at the same time felt ashamed of Sarah's blind trust and support for Naruto. Only a girl like Sarah could win his heart, right? Naruto just smiled slightly, and didn't say much about the attitude of the two women. Frontier of the Land of Wind. 3 figures appeared on the edge of the desert, each with a sand mask on his head, and his whole body was also wrapped in a wide and tight white trench coat. The 3 are Naruto, Makoto, and Sarah. At this time, according to Naruto's plan, the first step was to sneak into the country of wind and force the daimyo to sign a truce. Of course, Naruto would not actually implement the method that Makoto had guessed before, against the entire ninja world. All he has to do is to use a more dexterous way to achieve the purpose of the threat. The simplest of them is to directly cross the ninja village to threaten the daimyo. Once the daimyo is restrained, the ninja village will naturally be restricted. It might be difficult for other ninjas to do this, even for ordinary Kage-level powerhouses, but for Naruto, who possesses the technique of Hiraishin, it is not difficult to do. Of course, you still have to be careful about things like sneaking into the Land of Wind, otherwise, even if Naruto has the Hiraishin technique as his trump card, he will still encounter a lot of trouble. So he has to be successful. Now in the midst of war, there will definitely be many masters around the big names of various countries, and there will even be Kage-level powerhouses, but Naruto is not worried about this. The next stage of comprehension also has some eyes with this experience of integrating the power of nature. Even if these masters go into battle together, he still has the confidence to take the life of the daimyo. Once the safety of the daimyo is in hand, the actions of Shinobu village can be further curbed. All of this, as impractical as it sounds, is how will you know the result if you don't try it? When the first generation calmed down the chaotic world, didn't it rely on that invincible strength to subdue everyone, and then build the ninja village? Now that the ninja village system has been gradually improved, but the interests of all parties are constantly competing. At this time, if there is no reason enough to persuade everyone to give up the battle, the war will only continue. And what Naruto will do this time is to become the biggest reason for all countries to give up the war. The 3 braved the wind and sand, and after a day and a night of rushing, they came to the outside of the Sand Ninja village, because according to the information found by the shadow clone sent by Naruto, the name of the country of the wind moved to the Sand Ninja village, under the heavy protection of the people of Shinobi village. And Naruto couldn't help laughing when he got the news. He knew that most of the fighting forces of Sand Ninja village were now sent out. Although there were still some left behind in the village, these remaining forces could not pose a threat to Naruto. On the contrary, The biggest difficulty Naruto will face is how to sneak into the village without the other party knowing it. After all, the villages at this time are very vigilant, and it is almost impossible to hide from their perception. The three stood outside the village and stared for a while, and Naruto suddenly thought of a very good plan, so he pulled Makoto and Sarah and told them the plan. After listening to Naruto's words, both of them couldn't help but stunned. At this moment, the patrolling troops outside Sandin village suddenly discovered the existence of the three of Naruto and surrounded them. Chapter 251 Flooded Sand Ninja Village. Who are you guys? The leader stepped forward and asked with a stern look. Makoto and Sarah both looked at Naruto. Naruto smiled slightly, and said, "We are passersby and want to enter the Sand Ninja Village." Really? If you are a passerby, leave as soon as possible. The village is not open to the public for the time being. The man coldly refused. When Naruto heard the words, light flashed in his eyes, and suddenly he stretched out his hand to pull out Hiraishin Kunai. However, Naruto's Hiraishin Kuei shot at the leader, not giving him a chance to retreat at all. Just when the leader held his hand on the handle of the knife behind him, Naruto turned into a golden light and appeared in front of him with a slam, and a dim light flashed in his hand, and the next moment it was already on the leader's neck. His eyes were full of shock, but he didn't expect that he didn't even have time to dodge, so he was suddenly restrained. This speed, and the fleeting golden light, reminded him of someone in an instant. "You're Konoha's Yellow Flash?" the leader asked in surprise. Naruto smiled and nodded. "Yes, I am Konoha Ninja Village Yellow Flash, Namikaze Minato. This time I came to Sand Ninja Village to negotiate with you Kazekage. I wonder if you are welcome or not." Makoto and Sarah on the side didn't know why Naruto admitted that they were Namikaze Minato. They were smart and immediately knew that this was Naruto's plan, so they all nodded in cooperation. The leader was restrained, and the surrounding subordinates could only give up. Under Naruto's hold, everyone walked into the Sand Ninja Village step by step. At this time, ninjas in the village were already rushing towards this side one after another. Seeing that some ninjas on their side were actually being held hostage by Naruto, I couldn't help but feel very anxious. "Who are you? Why do you want to move the ninjas of our village?" At the entrance of the village, several figures appeared there, watching Naruto casually grabbing people and walking over, with a solemn expression on his face. During this period, due to the sudden disappearance of the three generations of Kazekage, the village of Sand Ninja was already in a state of leaderless, but fortunately, because of the presence of senior officials and elders, the village could still be led during the war, but without Kazekage, the village there is a lack of a master to sit in, and at this time, Naruto's sudden attack is also a bit unprepared. Surrounded by the crowd, the three Naruto slowly moved into the village. He glanced at the crowd and suddenly shouted, "Konoha Village Namikaze Minato is here. Come and negotiate. Please come out and answer the head of Sandin Village." Everyone in Sand Ninja Village was shocked, but they didn't expect this person to be the famous Yellow Flash in the ninja world. And this guy is actually here to negotiate. "Let go of our ninjas first. The old man is negotiating with you." At this moment, an old man in a robe walked out of the crowd in front, surrounded by a group of elite Anbu, walking towards Naruto. Naruto glanced at him and saw that he seemed to be the one who could be the master of Sand Ninja Village at present, so he smiled and let go of the ninja who was being held captive, and said lightly, "In order to express my sincerity, I have let go. Let your people go. Now can we find a place to sit down and have a good talk?" The old man pondered for a while and suddenly said, "Are you sure you are the Yellow Flash of Konoha? Why do we believe that you are here to negotiate? It seems that your village has not initiated a negotiation document yet." Naruto laughed and said, "It's not important. I'm here for only one purpose, that is to make you give up the war. Whether I'm here on behalf of Konoha or on behalf of an individual, the result I want is the same." "Yes. Hehe, that's funny. You said you wanted us to give up the war. Why, just because you're Konoha's Yellow Flash?" The old man snorted coldly, and dozens of people suddenly approached Naruto. Murder was rampant in the field. "Naruto, What should I do? They don't even look like they're negotiating, Sarah said, gently pulling down his sleeve. Naruto smiled lightly. It doesn't matter, my goal has been achieved. As long as I can enter the village, everything will be easy. A pause, he said loudly. I know that this war is nothing more than a struggle for interests, and I don't care which country started the dispute first. Now I just want to declare here, stop it all for me. Otherwise I will kill you. Your leader and name. At the same time, an incomparably tyrannical aura emanated from Naruto's body, and the many ninjas surrounding Naruto couldn't help but take a step back. What a terrifying chakra. It's even more terrifying than a tailed beast. The sentient ninja was shocked by the chakra emitted by Naruto. And more people feel inexplicable for a while. It is normal for a powerful person to lead his subordinates to fight in the quartet, but this guy is so strong. But he came naively to say that everyone should stop the war. Such a person is simply an idiot. Seeing the eyes of everyone, Naruto knew that these people would definitely not understand their actions. But it doesn't matter, he doesn't care about that, all he cares about is the result. This guy is a lunatic. Put him on, take him down. The old man snorted, and with a big wave of his hand, many ninjas rushed towards Naruto. Naruto had long expected that these guys would not cry without seeing the coffin. He smiled and reminded Makoto and Sarah, you two stay by my side, Makoto, protect Sarah. After speaking, Naruto formed a large seal with both hands, and a ninjutsu was completed in an instant. He gave a low voice, sweetened water style, shui shangyu. Boom boom boom. In an instant, there was a violent fluctuation in the air, and the next moment, an incomparably huge current of water suddenly emerged from Naruto's body like a torn space, and swept around with a destructive momentum. Doden, earth style, earth flow wall. Suddenly, all the sand ninjas, hand seal, created a huge stone wall in front of them, trying to stop Naruto's sweetened water style. But Naruto's chakra is extremely strong, deeper than the second-generation Hokage. I think that the second-generation Hokage could create a vast ocean in the desert, and Naruto used his own huge chakra foundation. Sweetened water style doesn't have to be the second generation, it's even stronger. I saw the torrent like a tsunami, with an unparalleled momentum. It directly swept through a group of ninjas, and drowned all the barriers they created. Even the surrounding area was completely submerged by Naruto's sweetened water style. From a distance it looked like an oasis in the desert. Chapter 252 Goodbye Shukaku. Everyone looked at the ocean in front of them, and their faces were full of shock. Sweetened water style of this level is just like the second generation Hokage, right? Why is Yellow Flash such a powerful sweetened water style ninjutsu? In such a dry environment in our country of wind, such a large amount of water flow is summoned, this chakra is simply unimaginable. Looking at the situation here, the elders of Sharon village who were standing in the distance and watching here could not help frowning. Although the nearby villagers have already evacuated, this place is almost all the war. The temporary base of, which has a lot of materials, information and other things, was disturbed by Naruto's sweetened water style, and it was completely messed up. I wanted to introduce Naruto into the village to overwhelm him with numbers, but I didn't expect this to be like bringing a wolf into the house. The information clearly shows that Namikaze Minato is a speed ninja, and he is not a grandmaster for such large-scale destruction of ninjutsu. Why use such a powerful sweetened water style? The high-level people are full of solemn expressions, and the remaining ninjas are all standing on the undulating water and confronting Naruto. Without the order of the leader, they dare not go on. The leading old man looked around and saw that many ninjas who could not dodge were directly drowned. At this time, they were picked up with the help of their companions, but they had already lost their fighting power. Unexpectedly, this attack alone has almost made 1/3 of the personnel lose their combat effectiveness. This guy's sweetened water style is so powerful that we can't fight him on the water at all. And most of our ninjutsu relies on sand. It seems that other methods must be used. The old man glanced at after glancing at the surrounding men, he shouted, Puppet Master, Futon, wind style, ninjas are out. The others retreat. The voice fell, and nearly half of the ninjas retreated, leaving only 100 or so people standing in place. Among the 100 people, the puppet master and the futon wind style ninja each accounted for half. There is only one opponent. Try to poison him, and then besiege him with futon wind style. The old man ordered calmly, not afraid of Naruto hearing. Naruto smiled lightly and said to the two women, "Be careful, hide behind me and hold your breath." At the same time, a thick black mist was actually released from the opposing puppet masters, rushing towards the three of Naruto, and a large piece of poison needle hidden weapon was mixed in the black mist. Naruto didn't care about this, and immediately hand-sealed with both hands, and a futon wind style ninjutsu issued, futon wind style wind blade dance. Immediately, the air within half a kilometer of the surrounding area was stirred up, and a large gust of wind was mixed with the wind blade and the black mist rumbled. Boom! Under Naruto's powerful futon wind style, all the black fog was blown away, and most of those poison needles were cut off by Naruto's wind blades and scattered. Their attack can't get close to Naruto's body at all. Powerful futon wind style. I didn't expect this guy to have such a powerful futon wind style ninjutsu. When everyone saw Naruto's technique, they were once again surprised. Seeing that their side could not be attacked for a long time, the people of Sand Ninja Village became anxious, and those high-level executives also stood in the distance with ugly expressions. Suddenly, one of the ninjas suddenly shouted to the leading old man, "Shukaku." Only Shukaku can deal with him at this time. The old man was a little embarrassed when he heard the words, and pondered, Shukaku's power is too difficult to control. If it is not controlled well, the village will be even more desperate. Elder, don't hesitate any longer. This guy is simply not something we can handle. Now that most of the masters in the village have been sent out, the few remaining in the village can't beat him at all, only Shukaku can come out. The old man, a young man beside him who looked like an assistant, said. Hearing the words, the old man couldn't help but fell into hesitation. Seeing that Naruto was fighting the ninjas by himself, he still looked extremely relaxed. He finally sighed, "Let IQ come out." Naruto ran out of futon wind style ninjutsu, and was about to use Rasengan, who was about to change his water attributes. He saw that the other party suddenly retreated. At the same time, a tall middle-aged man jumped out, only to see his face gloomy, step by step on the water with a sullen face, and walked towards Naruto. And the others all backed away and left this place far away, as if to want this person to be alone with themselves. Naruto was stunned for a moment, and then immediately laughed. He had already sensed a familiar aura from this person. It turned out to be the Jinchuriki column force from Shukaku. It seems that the Sand Ninja Village is also in a hurry. Naruto looked at the other party and smiled. However, there is water all around, even if you are a human Jinchuriki column force. Is it difficult to unfold it? The middle-aged man said in a low voice. As the ultimate weapon of the village, I will fight you no matter what the outcome is. After saying these words, the man made a seal, and suddenly his figure soared, and he instantly turned into a huge civet cat. Aikiao Shukaku. Facing this tailed beast again, Naruto felt a little kinder. Seeing this huge civet cat standing in front of him, looking down at him, Naruto couldn't help but raise his head and laugh. Shukaku, it's been a long time. At this moment, Shukaku Aikyo had completely come out, and he couldn't help but be stunned when he heard Naruto's words. What kind of guy are you, yellow hair? I have never seen you, sir. Naruto was sweating profusely. At this time, seeing the huge monster appearing, Sarah grabbed Naruto's arm in fright. Although Makoto knew that Naruto was powerful, she was still a little flustered when she faced the tailed beast. She couldn't help worrying. Naruto human, the other party is a tailed beast, are you okay? Naruto hand seal separated two Mokuden wood-style clones, protecting them beside Makoto and Sarah respectively, and said, Don't worry, I don't care about the mere one tail. After hearing it, Yue shouted, What did you say? How dare you underestimate this uncle so much? How unreasonable. Naruto smiled lightly and said, you're still so noisy. You don't want to have a good time with those guys because of such a rare opportunity. He glanced at the numerous sand ninjas who had already retreated not far away. Shukaku turned his head to look at him, snorted coldly, and then turned his head to stare at Naruto. Those guys are hateful, but I still like to kill a strong man like you, so let's talk about those guys after they kill you. Hearing this, Naruto shook his head helplessly. It seems that you are determined to fight me. Ha, I'm just abusing you. Shukaku laughed and waved his arm violently, and a gust of wind mixed with a violent sand wave rushed towards Naruto's place. Chapter 253 Repression by Force. Naruto raised his hand slightly, and the speed of the hand seal with both hands was so fast that it was almost invisible to the naked eye. In an instant, a strong wave surged out of the water beneath Naruto's feet. Sweden, water style, water formation wall. The water waves soared into the sky, forming a semicircular water curtain in front of Naruto. The next moment, Shukaku's entire arm was pumped directly above the water curtain, and the water curtain was instantly smashed into a splash of water, but his arm was also resisted because of this, and the speed was greatly reduced. At the same time, Naruto's foot with a kick, the body quickly rushed over the huge arm of Shukaku, and rushed to the top of his head along the arm. Get out of here, can you step on this uncle's body too? Shukaku was furious, and opened his hands and grabbed Naruto on his head. Shukaku's head with chakra under his feet, hand sealed with both hands, and suddenly slapped Shukaku's head under his feet fiercely. In an instant, several sturdy and huge tree stems extended directly from his head and quickly grew around Shukaku's limbs. In an instant, his entire body and limbs were wrapped around him. Shukaku couldn't move immediately, and he couldn't stop screaming in his mouth, which was firmly restrained by this Mokuden wood style. This is Mokuden wood style. Damn, how can you bastard with Mokuden wood style art? Shukaku hissed, but Naruto's Mokuden wood style was like a chain. Firmly wrapped around his entire body, no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't break free. Naruto smiled. Shukaku, did you admit defeat? Bastard. This uncle will not admit defeat. Shukaku raised his head suddenly, and a black chakra energy ball suddenly gathered in his mouth, and the powerful momentum suddenly sank the surrounding air. At this time, everyone watching the battle from a distance was stunned by Naruto's Mokuden wood style. The art of Mokuden wood style. Namikaze Minato actually knows the art of Mokuden wood style. Elder, Shukaku's situation is not optimistic. A ninja worried. If even Shukaku can't beat him back, our sand ninja village is really over. The elders lamented in unison. At this point, Naruto had already discovered his intention, and the direction Shukaku used the tailed beast bomb turned out to be where Makoto and Sarah were. Naruto was instantly furious. Shukaku, since it's so despicable and shameless, don't blame me for being indifferent. Before Naruto finished speaking, the tree stems entangled in Shukaku began to frantically absorb his chakra, and through these chakras carrot grows fast. In an instant, countless tree stems spread out, growing rapidly around Shukaku, and it didn't take long for Shukaku's entire body, including the tailed beast bomb, to be surrounded by a group of huge tree stems, forming a huge sphere. Naruto had already jumped off him at this time, looking at Shukaku, who was tightly wrapped by a tree stem. His eyes flashed fiercely, and his hands clasped together fiercely. Mokuden wood style tree bind flourishing burial. Suddenly, those tree stems suddenly shrank inward. That powerful pressure directly acted on Shukaku, making a muffled sound. At the same time, Shukaku's tailed beast bomb's chakra was directly crushed by the power of Mokuden wood style. It exploded in an instant. Boom! An explosion sounded as if millions of detonating talismans exploded together. The sky-shattering sound and the sky-high firelight were mixed with extremely strong air waves, directly blasting a gap in the tree stem. Then, the stems fell off, revealing the Shukaku inside. I saw that his entire head was almost completely distorted by his tailed beast bomb, and something that didn't know whether it was sand or blood was slowly flowing down his face, and the rest of his body was also blown away by Naruto's Mokuden wood-style strong pressure made his limbs twist, trembling and almost unable to stand still. The next moment, Naruto flashed and came to Shukaku in an instant. A Rasengan the size of a basketball suddenly formed in his hand and smashed it down on Shukaku's head. Boom! Shukaku, who was already seriously injured and crumbling, couldn't bear Naruto's big ball Rasengan at this moment, and was directly knocked back by the impact. A bang! Shukaku sat directly in the water, unable to move. Naruto stood between his eyes and looked at him coldly. If you fight one-on-one with me, I won't make you so miserable, but if you want to sneak attack on other people in front of me, you have to pay a heavy price. The price. Shukaku has been stunned by Naruto's overwhelming strength. He never imagined that other than the first generation, someone else could use Mokuden wood style so strongly. It even made the tailed beast produce an irresistible power. Forget it, I don't want to continue anymore. You should go back, Naruto said coldly. His hands suddenly formed a few complicated handprints, and the next moment they pressed them on his head. Seal. An invisible force directly penetrated into Shukaku's interior. In an instant, Shukaku's entire body shook slightly. Then, his strength shrank back like a tide, and his body rapidly became smaller. Finally, he returned to that middle-aged man's body. However, he had already fallen into a coma. Naruto mentioned the one-tailed Jinchuriki column force, and took Makoto and Sarah to the ninjas step by step. The people in Sand Ninja Village, who had watched the normal battle process, felt a little weak at the moment. The timid among them were even ready to escape from this place, and those high-level elders had also lost their strength to speak, and they were stunned. Naruto's ability to easily defeat Aikyo was stunned. When Naruto walked in front of them, the group of talents reacted and took a step back with fear on their faces, looking at Naruto as if they were looking at a monster. What do you want to do? Someone was even incoherent. Naruto smiled. My request is simple, stop your war. Okay, what do you want us to do? The elders of Sharon Village have no heart to resist now. There is simply no one who can compete with such a monster. Or agree to his conditions first. I heard that your name of the Kingdom of Wind is also in the village, right? Naruto said lightly. What do you want to do? Several elders couldn't help but change their expressions. Don't be nervous, I just want to meet your daimyo. I heard that the armistice agreement is the final decision of the daimyo, right? Naruto looked at the crowd and smiled. Chapter 254 Talk about conditions. Would you like to stop the battle for daimyo? It's impossible, doing so will only anger daimyo. The elders shouted loudly, but they were swept away by Naruto's gaze, and suddenly became silent again. All you have to do now is to take me to the daimyo, or let the daimyo come to see me in person. Naruto said slowly in a deep voice. We will never. An elder opened his mouth angrily, but as soon as he spoke, he was stopped by a look from the elder. Let him go. Big elder. Naruto smiled slightly and flew away with the two girls. After he left, several elders could not help but slump to the ground. It's over, Namikaze Minato is so powerful, no one can control him. Even if the elites from the front line come back, I'm afraid they won't be able to take him down. There was a sense of despair in everyone's heart. The great elder looked at Naruto's distant direction with a heavy gaze, and sighed. With his strength, it is not difficult to lead Konoha to conquer other ninja villages. Thinking of the first generation of Hokage to pacify the troubled world, no one family can match him. To contend, think about it, this guy is so strong now, although I don't know how it compares to the original Hokage, but the fact is that we have concentrated almost half the power of the village and the power of the tailed beasts and can't shake him. If he leads, if Konoha came to attack our village, the result would be predictable, right? Elder, if you say that, has Namikaze Minato been hiding his strength? Why did he do this? A ninja asked. Perhaps, he really wants peace in the ninja world. The elder sighed again. At this time, Naruto had brought the two girls to the place where the name of the Kingdom of Wind was located. At the moment, the daimyo of the Land of Winds is drinking tea bored in a hidden room, surrounded by two imposing warriors. Naruto's sudden appearance startled a few people, and the two samurai rushed up to stop Naruto. At the same time, ninjas hiding in the dark also appeared one after another, and 7 or 8 elite ninjas appeared. A group of people stared at the three Naruto with vigilance on their faces. "Who are you?" one of the guards snapped. Naruto walked towards them with the three daughters step by step, with a smile on his face. Daming's heart skipped a beat. "You are Yellow Flash from Konoha village?" he asked suspiciously the next moment. Naruto was stunned for a moment, but he didn't expect this famous name to have such good eyesight, even though his identity was fake. He nodded, looked at the big name and smiled. "It is Shaw, I came here to discuss something with you." "You are not welcome here. The ninjas of the enemy country are not allowed to get close to the daimyo." The samurai and ninja next to the daimyo shouted solemnly. But Naruto's footsteps did not stop, but continued to walk forward. With an endless pressure, the people around couldn't help but tremble. So powerful. However, out of duty, they must protect the daimyo. The samurai pulled out his long sword and slashed at Naruto. The light of the sword was as fast as lightning. But Naruto just raised his arm slightly, and he didn't see any movement from him. The figure suddenly appeared in front of the samurai. The samurai's arm holding the long sword was already pinched by him. What a great speed! The surrounding ninjas could only see the trajectory of the moment he shot, and their bodies could not keep up with his movements at all. The next moment, everyone rushed towards him. However, Naruto held the long knife in the samurai's hand, and the light of the knife turned. When everyone reacted, the cold and sharp long knife was already on the neck of the daimyo, and the teacup in the daimyo's hand fell to the ground. His face suddenly covered with cold sweat. The scene stopped instantly. Everyone's heart could not help but tremble. It was too fast and too strong. No one can keep up with his speed. Seeing the big name being restrained in front of them, they only felt embarrassed for a while. "Let them go out," Naruto said lightly. The big name swallowed and nodded. "You guys wait outside first." He had no choice but to order truthfully. "Daimyo, we can't go," a ninja yelled angrily. Naruto sneered. "If I wanted to kill this guy, he would have died no less than 100 times, so why do you still need to worry about my assassination?" The man immediately lowered his head and said no more. Therefore, these so-called elite ninjas can only close the door and leave helplessly. When only the three of Naruto and the daimyo were left in the room, Naruto smiled slightly, sat down cross-legged, and said to Makoto and Sarah, "Help me make a cup of tea, and Mr. Daimyo also has a cup." Makoto and Sarah couldn't help but stunned for a moment, and they immediately started to prepare. After a while, 2 cups of hot tea were brought to Naruto and daimyo. Seeing Naruto and the enemy's daimyo drinking tea so easily, Makoto only felt a trance in her heart. She only felt that during the time she had been following Naruto these days, he had shocked her time and time again. Not only his powerful Hiraishin technique and Mokuden, wood-style technique, but even the things he does are unimaginable. In this period of war, who would have imagined that someone would break into the enemy's base camp alone, and then kill the opponent's main force with 3 punches and 2 feet, stomping a big ninja village under his feet, and sitting down so majestic and arrogant to negotiate with the daimyo. These deeds can be compiled into a legend. In addition to admiring Naruto, Sarah also felt very fresh and exciting about what he did. As the queen of a country, of course she knew that the majesty of being a leader would never be violated, but Naruto was just right on the contrary. The leader of Sandin village didn't take it seriously at all, and even the daimyo said that he was threatening and threatened, and also treated the daimyo to drink tea like a host. This is simply handsome. If possible, Sarah would really like to jump into his arms now. "Mr. Daimyo, in fact, I have no intention of harming you. You should know that." Naruto took a sip of tea and said slowly, "However, you must promise me one thing next." Daming nodded when he heard the words. He pretended to be calm and picked up the teacup and took a sip, but the slightly trembling hand undoubtedly betrayed his current state of mind. Please tell me. Daimyo knew that although the other party spoke to him so calmly, he also knew that his life was in his hands at the moment. If he didn't agree, his life would not be his own. Still clear. Therefore, no matter what conditions the other party offers, he must agree. Chapter 255 Raider. However, when Naruto stated his purpose, Daimyo was stunned. You say you want me to stop the war with foreign countries. Naruto nodded. Yes, this matter is very simple, right? I believe you are still aware of current affairs. Daimyo nodded suddenly and said, Okay, I promise you. But my war is not a one-sided problem on my side. If other countries are unwilling to stop the war, then we can only passively counterattack. Naruto didn't expect his promise to be so happy. It seems that this daimyo still cares more about his own safety. Yes, no matter how great the benefits of war are, if there is no life to enjoy it, it will be wasted. This, Naruto thought for a moment. He remembered that the fuse of the third battle was caused by the disappearance of the third generation of Kazekage, and then the Sand Ninja Village investigated Konoha, which was actually a disguised war. They joined one after another, and the relationship between the countries was very chaotic. On the surface, everyone pointed at the village of Konoha, but other countries were also constantly fighting each other. Among them, Sand Ninja Village has to face not only the resistance of Konoha, but also the battle from the Land of Water. So if you want to solve this whole war, all you have to do is to persuade the villages and countries of all countries to let them give up the fight. Naruto thought about it for a long time, and he felt that the only way was to convince everyone with force, and then convince them with reason. And this first country of wind, in any case, has agreed to a truce. When Naruto walked out of the Sand Ninja Village with the armistice agreement of the Wind Kingdom in his hand, he could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Although this was a forced agreement, before leaving, Naruto placed a spacetime mark on Daimyo's body, telling him that if he dared to go back, he would hunt him down with the technique of Hiraishin no matter where he was. Yellow Flash's terrible name has long been known. He naturally nodded in agreement. After walking out of the Sand Ninja Village, Naruto suddenly noticed something strange. He frowned slightly, glanced at Sarah and Makoto and said, The next village, let's go to Iwagakure village. Okay, Naruto, next I want to see you go there majestic. Sarah cheered. All this seemed to her just an opportunity to watch Naruto perform. Makoto shook his head helplessly. The three continued on their way. At this moment, there was a scorching wave in the air. Makoto was startled, and quickly turned around, only to find that a scorching fireball that was constantly magnifying in front of him suddenly approached Naruto's body. Watch out, Naruto! Makoto yelled in a hurry. However, Naruto seemed to be completely unaware, unmoved at all. There was even a smug arc on the attacker's face. Suddenly, Naruto's body turned into a golden light and disappeared. Huh! A crisp exclamation came. The next moment Naruto's figure has appeared beside Makoto. The art of Hiraishin. In the past few days, Naruto has set up the Hiraishin technique on Sarah and Makoto, so that no matter who is in danger, he can arrive at the first time, and at this moment, facing this raid on Naruto just use this to escape. There are still people in Sharon village who dare to assassinate me. You have great courage, Naruto said lightly. Looking to the left, a tall and pretty figure appeared there, with a look of shock on his face. Yellow Flash, is this the so-called elusive speed? It really lives up to its reputation. But it seems that your name is Naruto. Naruto looked at her, but saw that the other party was actually a beautiful woman, with black hair in a round bun on top, and orange sideburns hanging down to the chin on both sides, which set off the delicate cheeks, showing an air of indifference. Who are you? Makoto asked when he turned on Sharingan and stopped in front of Naruto, looking at him with a wary look. Shikuden, Scorch Style, Ninja, Yi King. She replied indifferently. Dare to break into my Shikuden village to threaten the elders and the daimyo. No matter who you are, we will arrest you today. Hearing her words, Naruto couldn't help but smile. Shikuden, Scorch Style, Ninja Yi King seems to be the chess piece that was abandoned by the village to be assassinated by the enemy after the 3 wars. Her experience is indeed tragic enough. She usually has a high status in the village and has made countless military exploits. But he ended up being betrayed by the village. Thinking of this, a trace of sympathy appeared in his eyes. Yi King was sensitive to Naruto's eyes and the smile on the corner of his mouth. He thought he was underestimating him, so he couldn't help but say coldly, "What do you mean? If you have one, just play a single with me." This time Naruto was stunned for a while. Did this woman have a problem with her head? She has already shown her own strength, yet she dares to challenge herself. However, Naruto didn't mind teaching her a lesson, and said lightly, "Then let me accompany you once." "Naruto, leave this little role to me. I also want to fight once." At this moment, Makoto suddenly stood up and said, turning on Sharingan. She looked at Yi King's figure full of fighting intent. "Humph, are you from the Uchiha clan? Then you can come as much as you like." Yi King snorted, making a slight seal, and several hot flame balls suddenly appeared in the air beside him. "HMPH, is this a juggling?" Makoto scoffed. "Do you want to provoke me? Tell you that this method has been used badly since I was a child," Yi King said lightly. Makoto bit Kiba slightly, hand sealed with both hands, opened his mouth and shot out a huge fireball. "Kaden, Fire Style, Great Fireball Jutsu." It's actually Kaden, Fire Style, Ninjutsu. I don't know if my Shikuden, Scorch Style, is a Kekkei Genkei that is more advanced than Kaden, Fire Style. Yi King sneered in his heart, and a disdainful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. The next moment, she directly controlled those fireballs towards Makoto's huge flame. And when Makoto's Kaden Fire Style just touched the Shikuden, Scorch Style fireball, he was directly smashed by the fireballs and slammed towards her body. Makoto's Sharingan immediately saw through the trajectory of those fireballs. She moved rapidly, and after avoiding the attack of those fireballs, she threw several kunai directly at her. At the same time, hand seal in hand. Kunai shadow clone technique. Swish swish. In an instant, a large rain cover of hidden weapons turned towards the opponent. In the face of these dense raindrops of hidden weapons, Yi King was also very calm. She concentrated slightly, and immediately a huge fireball with a diameter of 2 meters condensed in front of her. The intense light was like the sun in the sky. Usually people look straight at it, and the temperature radiated from it. Even Naruto, who was watching the battle from the side, was slightly sweaty. Chapter 256 defeated Yi King. The next moment, when all the sufferings fell on the scorching fireball, it was as if the snow in the spring was all melted by the terrifying high temperature. Bang bang bang. Yi King pushed forward with both hands, and the big fireball flew in the direction of Makoto. The ground was scorched and blackened. The high temperature directly cracked the ground. Shadow clone dissipates directly. Sweden, Water Style, Water Gun Technique. Makoto hand sealed with both hands, and a water gun flew out of his mouth. Scoff. As soon as the water gun hit the fireball, it was evaporated into a white mist by the high temperature, and the surroundings were immediately shrouded in mist. "You are no match for me." Yi King's voice came coldly. At the same time, the high-temperature fireball suddenly appeared from behind Makoto and flew towards her back. Because it was in the white mist, Makoto's vision was blocked. Even with Sharingan's insight, it was difficult to see clearly. At this time, she did not expect the crisis behind her. When she noticed the scorching temperature, it's too late to hide. At this moment, a violent gust of wind suddenly swept in, instantly dissipating all the water mist, and the next moment, a golden light flashed, and Makoto had disappeared in place. The huge fireball whizzed past and returned to Yi King's side again. "Phew, I'm saved, Naruto, thank you." Makoto was hugged by Naruto's waist, feeling the warmth of his big hand. His heart was full of security, and he couldn't help but say, "Yuhi, you'll be fine." Naruto smiled slightly, let go of her and motioned for him to stand behind him. "Beyond your own power." Seeing this, Yi Kang snorted coldly. Makoto bit Kiba, looking unwilling, but the truth was that she was defeated and had nothing to say. Naruto didn't say much nonsense. With a wave of his arm, Hiraishin came out of his hand and appeared in front of Yi Kang in an instant. Yi Kang dispersed the big fireball and recondensed several small fireballs around her, which revolved around her constantly. When Naruto's Kuwu just came to her, she controlled the fireballs to fly to the edge of Kuwu, letting Ming people can't teleport at all. However, Naruto didn't pay much attention to this. Just when she controlled the fireball to meet kunai, Naruto's hand condensed a sweetened, water-style Rasengan. The powerful chakras continue to condense, and the color of Rasengan is dark blue, and there is a dense mist all around. What a strong chakra! Yi Kang felt the power of this chakra in Naruto's hands, and couldn't help being shocked. Rasengan containing powerful chakra flew towards Yi Kang. Sweetened, water-style, vortex blade. Naruto said softly, and as soon as the voice fell, he saw that the water ball suddenly swelled and instantly turned into thousands of water blades, spreading out like a storm. Yi Kang had long realized that it was not good, and his body could not help but burst back and retreated, and those fireballs flew directly back to him for defense. However, she still underestimated the power of Naruto. The power that this ninjutsu burst out in an instant is simply the amount of water of an S-rank sweetened, water style. Even if her fireball is hot, it will be under countless water blades. Is gradually extinguished. In the end, Yi Kang was unable to escape the scope of Naruto's sweetened, water style and was shrouded in countless water blades. Chi-chi. When the scene calmed down, Yi Kang's body fell into the muddy water. She was soaked all over, and her clothes were also torn by water blades. Only a few protected sensitive parts were still intact, but her arms and thighs remained intact. And the white tender spring light in the lower abdomen could not be prevented from being exposed, and there were also bloodstains in these places, which were the masterpieces of those water blades. If Naruto didn't want to kill her and didn't use all his strength when using this technique, I'm afraid her condition would be even worse than now. Despite this, she fell to the ground at the moment. Her hands were able to protect the shame of her body. She raised her head and stared at Naruto with shame and anger, gasping for breath. Naruto stepped forward, looked at her embarrassed appearance, and said lightly, "I don't know why you came to assassinate me. If this is what your village executives mean, it seems that I haven't done enough." "No, it's all my own actions. It has nothing to do with the village." Yi Kang hurriedly shouted, "It's up to you to kill or cut it." Hearing this, Naruto frowned, suddenly squatted down and stared into her eyes, and asked coldly, "Do you really want this world to be full of war?" Yi Kang was slightly startled when Naruto suddenly approached her. At this time, the clothes on her body were even more shattered. Chunin couldn't help but panic. Hearing his question, he subconsciously said, "I don't like war." "That's right." Naruto heard the words and stood up. "What I want to do is to stop the war. You can see that this is the armistice agreement signed by your name, so I hope you can use your brain to investigate before you act." "Clear," he said as he took out the agreement and flashed it in front of Yi Kang's eyes. Yi Kang was stunned. What happened? Was the purpose of his attack on the village really just to stop the war? At this moment, she couldn't help but regret her recklessness and momentary anger. She only knew that she had just returned from the front line when she received the news that the village was attacked and her name was taken hostage. Then, after learning of Naruto's whereabouts, he secretly came to prepare to kill him, but unfortunately he failed in the end. What do you mean? Are you saying that I have no brains? Who was the first to invade our village and who was the first to hold our name hostage?" However, after hearing Naruto's words, the arrogant she immediately became angry. He got up and retorted loudly. After hearing this, Naruto couldn't help shaking his head secretly. Although his approach was extreme and easily misunderstood, he didn't want to explain anything. Before the result came out, it would be a waste of words. "Okay, let's not talk nonsense with you, you better do it yourself." Naruto waved his hand, left a sentence, and left with Makoto Sarah. Seeing the backs of Naruto and the others leaving, Yi King couldn't help biting his lower lip, and said bitterly, "Damn. How easy is it to stop the war? Whimsical fellow." However, even though she said so, she still felt in her heart. Still, there is a glimmer of hope, if only he can actually stop the war. Staggering to his feet, Yi King saw that his clothes were barely intact, and his body was covered with scars. He couldn't help frowning and said, "Whether you are Naruto or Yellow Flash Namikaze Minato from the ninja world, next time I will never let you down. I won't let you be so arrogant again." Chapter 257 Challenges Everywhere. A few days later, the headquarters of the village of Iwagakure. Damn, who the hell is that guy? How could Yellow Flash be so destructive? The third-generation Tsuchikage angered several of his subordinates. Lord Tsuchikage, that man is indeed Yellow Flash. And he admitted it himself. The ninja said with a sad face. Fuck, do you think the old man is an idiot? The old man just took a picture with Yellow Flash on your frontline. How could he come to the village at the same time to wreak havoc? This. Third generation of Tsuchikagenoki walked out of the headquarters and looked at the intertwined stems of the entire village in front of him, as if the entire village had become a virgin forest. If Yellow Flash knew the Mokuden wood-style technique, Konoha would have defeated all of our ninja villages long ago. He said angrily and anxiously, "Go and find out for me immediately, who the hell is that guy?" Yes. A few days later, the village of Kurigakure also suffered the same situation. They sent most of the ninjas to the front line, but the village was also insufficient to stay behind. In the face of Naruto's overwhelming power, it was impossible to fight back, and the result was easy. Naruto broke into it. The land of the land and the land of water are also the same as the names of the land of Hefeng. Naruto forced him to sign an armistice agreement, and asked the shadows of each village to go to Konoha to hold the Five Shadows Conference 3 days later. The mist-shrouded village of Kumogakure, above the highest mountain. Naruto stood opposite a tall figure. "Yellow Flash, I heard that your speed is unmatched, and today I want to compete with you." The third-generation Raikage said loudly, "Although our Kumogakure village has not launched an attack on Konoha, we have never had the opportunity to compete with you before. You met, but since you brought it to your door this time, take this fight as a signal to declare war on your Konoha." "You are mistaken, Lord Raikage, this is not the purpose of my invitation to fight." Naruto shook his head and smiled. Boom. As if the sky and the earth were torn apart, the rocks collapsed, and the entire mountain peak was crumbling. 3 generations of Raikage gasped slightly, looking around for Naruto's figure. A gust of breeze blew, and the smoke was gradually blown away. The third generation of Raikage finally saw the scene in front of him, and saw Naruto standing quietly in place, without any damage to his body. "Your speed is really incomparable." 3 generations of Raikage sighed slightly, "but your strength is by no means my opponent." Naruto looked at Raikage, whose body was covered with lightning power, and frowned slightly. He had used Rasengan, Futon wind-style Rasenshuriken, and the Vortex Giant Blade just now, all of which were unable to break through his lightning armor. And compared to his strongest shield, Thunder and Lightning armor, his strongest spear, the Thunder Hand, is an existence that can penetrate his strongest shield. Fighting it alone, even Naruto would not dare to be careless. So far, Naruto has experienced master battles in various ninja villages, and the 3 generations of Raikage in front of him are definitely the strongest in singles melee combat. Even he can't compete with it hand-to-hand. At this time, the third generation of Raikage said this, and Naruto suddenly had a desire to fight in his heart. Standing quietly, Naruto suddenly closed his eyes slowly, and a faint golden light slowly emerged from his body. Curse Seal Immortal Power is on. It's been a long time since Naruto used the power of the seal in battle. Because his own power is already strong enough, almost no one can force him to use this technique. However, now facing the powerful third-generation Raikage, he has a strong desire to compete with him in power, so he turned on the power of the curse. That familiar, incomparably pure power poured out of his body, and suddenly his whole body was full of power, stronger than the previous momentum. An invisible air wave spread out from him, setting off a gust of wind around him. The next moment, Naruto rushed out, and the speed was so fast that even the third-generation Hokage couldn't help being surprised. Bang bang bang. Boom boom boom. Countless collisions, fists to the flesh, the airwaves at the intersection of the two became more violent. The surrounding environment was also destroyed by the two. The rocks were broken, the trees were destroyed, and the entire mountain seemed to have tornadoes and hurricanes were ravaging everywhere, and the battle was extremely fierce. After a long time, when it was completely dark, the battle between the two gradually stopped. Naruto panted slightly, his physical strength was severe, but his eyes were full of fighting spirit. Sure enough, such hand-to-hand combat can even arouse the passion in my heart. This fight is worth it. Jonin couldn't help showing a smile on his face. And the third generation of Hokage seems to have seen a ghost at this moment, because he has always claimed to be invincible in hand-to-hand combat, but he can't beat this guy, and he who was able to tie with Yahweh, he can't beat him. Moreover, the third generation of Hokage found that his physical strength at this time was more serious than that of the opposite guy. If you continue, you will lose yourself. And the other party still gave up the endless ninjutsu to fight with him. If he used the time-space ninjutsu like Yellow Flash a little bit, I am afraid he would have been defeated long ago. He looked at Naruto quietly, his eyes flickering. Finally, he slowly dissipated the thunder and lightning armor on his body, gradually calmed the turbulent chakra in his body, and said solemnly, "The battle ends here. The old man promises your terms." Outside the village of Kumogakure, Naruto appeared in front of Makoto and Sarah, who were waiting anxiously. "Naruto, you're finally back." A figure rushed into his arms. It was Sarah. "I'm worried about you to death. A few days ago, you solved the battle in less than half a day. This time, you didn't come back for a day. I thought you." As she spoke, Sarah couldn't help but get excited. He started to cry, and drops of crystal tears fell on Naruto, soaking the shirt on his chest. Makoto, who was beside him, also leaned lightly on his shoulder, his face full of peace after the worry disappeared. Feeling the concern of the two women, Naruto felt a little warm in his heart, stretched out his hand to embrace the delicate bodies of both of them, and said softly, "I'm sorry, I was too obsessed with fighting just now, and I made you worry." "Ooh, Naruto, as long as you're fine, otherwise I won't have the courage to live by myself." Sarah hugged his body hard and murmured. Chapter 258 Go to Konoha. For more than 10 days, Naruto has visited all the major ninja villages. Iwagakure Village, Sand Ninja Village, and Kurigakure Village have all been forced to write an armistice agreement, and have agreed to hold the Five Shadows Conference. Hokage of Kumogakure Village also agreed to an external truce after losing to Naruto and went to Konoha. So, only the Konoha family is left. The Konoha village best. He knows that if he wants to stop the war, Konoha is the easiest to convince. So after the 4 major ninja villages are settled, the remaining Konoha is the best solution. And Naruto is not worried that those big powers will backtrack, because he has shown enough strength these days. The elusive Hiraishin, the first Hokage, Mokuden wood style, and the powerful Futon wind style, Suiten water style, as well as the chakra and physical skills that are so strong that no one can compare them. Naruto's information quickly spread in the ninja world. In just over a dozen days, almost all major villages already knew about Naruto's existence, and they had already deduced that Naruto was not Yellow Flash deity. However, after discovering this, they were even more puzzled and in awe of the mysterious Naruto. The so-called unknown is the most dangerous. Although Naruto has exposed enough strength now, the people in the major ninja villages dare not make any big moves after learning about the strength Naruto possesses. They keep dispatching troops on the front line, back to the village, in order to prevent the sudden appearance of the mysterious guy Naruto. Gradually, the major villages were afraid that their own village's defense force was too weak and Naruto would take the opportunity to break in, and ordered the troops to withdraw. As a result, there were fewer and fewer battles on the battlefield. Everyone seemed to have formed a tacit understanding. After a little contact, they stopped, and they didn't dare to fight on a large scale, because they were worried that their elites would lose too much, and as a result, the village no longer had enough strength to guard against Naruto, and once Naruto attacked, I am afraid that the entire village would be wiped out. With this idea in mind, the villages began to shrink their strength, and fewer troops were placed on the war effort. What Naruto did at the beginning actually played such a dramatic role. This reassured Naruto. Moreover, the fighting around these days has also made Naruto gain a lot, making him more skilled in the use of his own power. Moreover, the power of nature that I felt when I used the Mokuden wood-style technique at that time, I have gradually mastered some skills in the constant exploration these days. Although that state can only be felt when using Mokuden wood-style at present, after many researches and explorations, he has already felt that his fit with this natural force is getting higher and higher. It's getting easier to catch. I believe that it will not be long before he can control this natural force. Hey, it's been almost a month before you know it. Naruto sighed slightly as he led the two girls to Konoha. Sarah glanced at him, worried. Makoto still didn't know Naruto's origin, so he didn't know what he meant by his sudden sigh, and he sighed after hearing the words. I've been away from the village for many days, I don't know if I can be honest after this war is over. Go back to the village brightly. Quote. Yes, as long as the Five Shadows Conference opens, the ninja world will usher in a peaceful day, when everything will calm down, you don't have to follow me around anymore. Naruto said. Makoto glanced at him with a faint look. Naruto, where will you go after the war is over? If you can. Let's talk later. Before Makoto could finish speaking, Naruto interrupted. Then help Sarah rebuild the Rorin Kingdom first. Oh, hearing Naruto's words, Makoto nodded slightly disappointed. He wanted to ask him where he would go if he helped Sarah rebuild the country, but when he thought about it, he couldn't help but feel sad. Rorin, Kun, right. With Queen Sarah accompanied, what else are you going to do? In fact, Naruto's mood is not calm now, and he has no idea what to do after the war is over. These days, he keeps running around and fighting, just to end the war. In fact, what does the war have to do with him? With his strength, he can spend his life peacefully in any place he finds, and absolutely no one can destroy him. However, he was afraid, or had a vague fear in his heart. He was afraid that once he calmed down, he would recall everything in that world involuntarily, and the turbulent thoughts would be accompanied by endless pain. Therefore, he would rather find something to do for himself than let himself relax. Everything in that world, although buried deep in his heart, would still pop up from time to time, attacking his nerves. Konoha Village. Temporary Combat Command Room. 3 generations of Hokage's top executives and Namikaze Minato and other elite ninjas gathered together. At this time, they were talking about the characters who have been making a lot of noise in the ninja world these days. Some time ago, they kept pretending to be Yellow Flash to attack the guys in the major ninja villages. 3 generations of adults, the situation in the ninja world has become strange now because of his appearance. I think we should take this opportunity to stop fighting. After all, there are fewer and fewer battles in the outside world. Compared with the huge interests in the ninja village, some borders and other small interests are less and less valued. If this continues, the major countries seem to have lost their interest in competing for interests, and they seem to be working hard to defend themselves. A senior elder said. Hearing the words, the 3 generations felt quite reasonable, nodded and analyzed. It's true that what that guy did is really incredible, and the most strange thing is that he didn't take action against us Konoha and the Land of Fire, which is very worthwhile. Attention. 3 generations, he won't be Namikaze Minato's brother. A Jonin said with a smile. Sandai glared at him. Minato has already answered this question long ago. He doesn't know that guy exists, and there are many people who look like him in this world. But that guy is also Hiraishin. It is said that he also has Mokuden wood style. I always feel that it has something to do with our Konoha. After hearing that person's words, everyone else started to talk about it. It is true that Naruto has too many doubts. Mokuden, Wood Style, and Hiraishin are all from Konoha, and everything he does seems to be beneficial to Konoha. If such a person does not belong to Konoha, it is impossible to justify it. Chapter 259 Sera's Temptation. In Kikyo Castle outside Konoha village, the three of Naruto are walking down the street. Makoto was in a complicated mood, with a worried look on his face. What's the matter, Sister Makoto? It's almost time for Konoha, aren't you happy? Sera on the side asked. No, I just remembered what happened to my father last time. I don't know what will happen when I return to the village this time. Makoto glanced at Naruto and said in a low voice. Naruto smiled when he heard the words. It's okay, don't worry, with me, no one will force you to do things you don't want. A sweet smile appeared on Makoto's face upon hearing this, and Sera on the side was thoughtful. At this time, several voices of discussion suddenly came from the front of the street. Have you heard? A mysterious figure has appeared in the ninja world recently. I knew it earlier. I heard that the guy attacked the headquarters of the major ninja villages with one person, and he all retreated. His strength is incomparable even at Kage level. I really envy. When did I become so strong? The power! Exclaimed one of the Konoha ninjas. The companion next to him sneered. Don't think about it, let's wait until Jonin has applied for it. The man was laughed at by his companions. He couldn't help sighing, and then said again, but this war has been restrained a lot because of that guy's appearance. I heard that there will be a meeting of the Five Shadows soon. I don't know if he will or not. Will he show up? I really want to meet him. I think it should be. The Five Shadows who are aloof will definitely not obey anyone. I think that if he suppresses them at that time, the negotiation will be successful, and then we will no longer have to suffer from the pain of war. Listening to the voices of these discussions, Naruto couldn't help but smile slightly. Both Makoto and Sera couldn't help showing proud expressions on their faces. If these people were told that the person they were talking about and worshipped was around, I'm afraid they would immediately die. Go crazy. Because the three of Naruto have been running constantly these days, and the situation in the ninja world is much better now, they are not in a hurry to enter Konoha. Anyway, Kikyo Castle is also very close to Konoha, so the three plan to rest here first. Re-enter Konoha at night, and Makoto will write a letter back to inform everyone in Konoha. That night, several people checked into a hotel. In the room, Naruto, who had just taken a shower, was sitting cross-legged on the couch practicing chakra. The natural energy around him was very active, as if he had been summoned by him, revolving around him, but Naruto could not absorb this energy into his body yet. He frowned slightly in distress, shook his head with a slight sigh, and muttered to himself, I can already feel these natural energies, why is it so difficult to integrate them? Is there a step I'm missing? What? Just then, there was a soft knock on the door. Come in, the door is unlocked. Naruto responded, temporarily putting away his doubts. The door was opened, and a charming figure walked in slowly, her long hair swaying slightly, and her delicate face stared at Naruto with a pair of pretty eyes. What's the matter, Sera? Naruto saw her holding a sleeping pillow, wearing only a thin pajamas and came over, and the skirt of the pajamas seemed to be a little low, covering her big legs. Heel. A pair of slender and white long legs were exposed in the air, extremely dazzling. She walked over gently, came to Naruto and sat down. Naruto, I can't sleep, I want to talk to you. Sera said softly. Naruto was stunned for a moment. Seeing that she seemed to have something to say, he nodded and smiled at her. What do you want to say? Sera lowered her head and hesitated for a while, then suddenly raised her head to look at him and said, Naruto, what are you going to do after the Konoha affair is over? Well, didn't you agree that I'll help you rebuild Rorin first? Rorin is not so easy to rebuild. Now that the people of the country are scattered all over the world, it will take a long time to get back together again, Sera said. It doesn't matter, if you can't finish it in a year or two, it will take a few more years. As long as you don't give up, Rorin will always be re-established. You have many people who support you. Naruto Wei he laughed, but he couldn't help sighing inwardly. After a few years, I don't know what the world has become. Sarah looked at Naruto with a complicated expression, and she saw the faint melancholy in Naruto's eyes, which made her heart feel suddenly tightened. Naruto, you do not belong to this world, you are in another world, are you still thinking about everything in that world? Sarah suddenly felt a sense of distance in her heart, as if Naruto could leave her and go back to that world at any time. This feeling has been haunting her, making her hesitant. Seeing Sarah's silence, Naruto smiled and patted her on the shoulder, comforting, "Okay, I will help you with these things in the future, don't worry so much." "I'm worried about you, fool," Sarah thought to herself. Seeing Naruto's warm smile, Sarah bit Kiba, and suddenly reached out to hold Naruto's big hand. A pair of beautiful brown pupils stared at him, leaning forward with a delicate voice. "Naruto, I am today. Can I sleep here tonight?" Naruto couldn't help but jump. "What are you talking about?" Sarah's face was slightly yuhi. "I mean, I want to stay with you to sleep tonight, I can't sleep alone." "Isn't this good?" Naruto said in an embarrassed voice. He had been able to feel Sarah's feelings for him since the past few days. To be honest, he has been running around these days, and he has never been in the mood to pay attention to it, but at this time, Sarah ran over so suddenly and said that he wanted to sleep with him. He had been a bachelor for a month, and he had reached the limit of his endurance, both physically and psychologically, and suddenly he didn't want to refuse. Her eyes swept across her soft and moist lips, which seemed to exude a faint fragrance, and her brown eyes seemed to be full of water, as if they could attract people's eyes. Naruto's body couldn't help but heat up, and there was a faint flame in his lower abdomen, which was beginning to burn roaringly. "Naruto, can you kiss me?" Sarah also felt Naruto's hot gaze at this moment. Her soft lips opened slightly, and the fragrance of Rulin spit out from it. She raised her head, and her body gradually leaned forward. A pair of small hands quietly climbed up Naruto's shoulders directly along Naruto's arms. How can Naruto, who has been thirsty for more than a month now, be so beautiful? Chapter 260 Makoto is here too. However, at this moment, the door of the room rang again. Both of Naruto's bodies trembled slightly. Naruto instantly woke up from his fascination and turned to look at the door. It seems that this time it was Makoto who was knocking on the door. He had sensed Makoto's chakra. Sarah, who was interrupted, frowned slightly and seemed a little displeased. The next moment she suddenly stopped Naruto's words, and put her lips together and bit Naruto's mouth all of a sudden. Naruto, who was so kissed, couldn't help but widen his eyes and looked at Sarah, who had become bold, in disbelief. The knocking on the door became more and more urgent, and he wanted to push it away. She went to open the door, but wondered if this would make Sarah sad, so she had to let her kiss her mouth jerky. After a while, the knock on the door ended, and Makoto's suspicious voice came from outside the door. "Naruto, did you sleep so early?" "I can't sleep, I want to come and talk to you." There was a hint of shame in Sarah's eyes, so she had to let go of Naruto, but made a silent gesture. Naruto didn't know why, but saw Sarah roll and hide under the bed, and then signaled Naruto to open the door. "Hey, why are you hiding?" Naruto asked in confusion. "Shush, Naruto, I want to hear Sister Makoto talk to you." "She would definitely not have said it if I was here." Sarah giggled and stuck her tongue out at him. Naruto was helpless, and slightly tidied up his clothes before going to open the door. The door opened, Makoto stood in front of him in a loose white kimono, looked inside with a puzzled face, and said, "Naruto, is Sarah here? I seem to have heard Sarah's voice just now." "No, maybe you heard it wrong." Naruto glanced at Sarah, who was carefully hiding under the bed, and explained to Makoto. "Oh, that's good." Makoto seemed to be relieved, then looked at Naruto with a smile. "Are you free? I want to chat with you." "Free," Naruto replied. Then I'll come in. Makoto jumped lightly and entered the room, closed the door, and took Naruto's hand to sit beside the bed. Naruto was stunned by her series of movements, feeling that something was wrong with the atmosphere, and he hurriedly moved his body slightly to the side. At this moment, Makoto suddenly stretched out his arm and put his arm around him, and said softly, "Naruto, after returning home, father wants to marry me to Fugaku. Do you want me to agree?" Naruto was shaken by the soft double on her chest. "Feng, if you don't want to, don't agree, of course I think you and Fugaku should be a good match." When he said this, Naruto had a strange feeling in his heart. Although history has shown that Makoto and Fugaku will only give birth to Seijutsu and Itachi, and the plot will continue, but subconsciously he is a little bit reluctant, and there is a faint kind of unwilling. Makoto pouted when he heard it. "Idiot, of course I won't agree. Fugaku is just my comrade, how does it match me?" Naruto laughed dryly. At this moment he seemed to understand something. Sarah under the bed frowned, thinking that it was true. Sister Makoto also likes Naruto. Listening to the conversation between the two, Sarah felt sour in her heart. "Naruto, I found out that I like you, what should I do?" The next moment, Makoto suddenly looked up at him. Naruto screamed that he couldn't bear it. There seemed to be a vacuum under Makoto's kimono. Looking from this angle, a deep ravine came into view, undulating slightly with her breathing. Moreover, Makoto's words made him extremely confused. "You are the mother of Zuo. How can you say such a thing? This makes me feel so embarrassed." Seeing Naruto seem to be frightened, Makoto burst into a smile. "I know you must like Sarah, am I embarrassing you by saying this?" Naruto didn't know how to answer, so he didn't speak. Makoto thought he had acquiesced, and with a slight sigh, there was a hint of sadness in his eyes, but then he turned to Yuhi and said, "Naruto, I will marry sooner or later, if I can, I just want to marry you, so just please give me a chance to compete with Sarah. I will do better than her." Saying that, Makoto stretched out his hand and undid his belt, and the silky kimono on his body fell to the ground with a slam, and a white and smooth body was displayed in front of Naruto. Holding Naruto's arm, "She really isn't wearing anything inside." I saw that her face was Yuhi moist, and there seemed to be a familiar aroma between her cherry lips, which seemed to be the aroma of wine. He couldn't help being surprised. "Did you drink?" Makoto chuckled. "Drink a little." Having said that, she has already straddled her delicate body on Naruto's lap, holding Naruto's shoulders with both hands, and the white flower on her chest directly enters the line of sight in front of Naruto. "Does it look good, Naruto?" Makoto lightly held up a strong, upright white rabbit with one hand, and cushioned it, causing Naruto to suddenly lose his mind with a bang in his head. "I haven't touched a woman in over a month. Sarah just kissed Naruto just now, and she couldn't hold back a little." At this moment, Makoto was tempting him by eating guago, which made him unable to control himself at all. At this time, Sarah, who was hiding under the bed, had a red face in Yuhi's face. She didn't expect Makoto to be so bold. Lewd. Looking at the kimono that fell off the ground, and seeing Makoto's pair of crystal swaying jade feet from the crack of the bed, Saladin felt hot all over, and his heart was beating wildly. So embarrassing. How can Sister Makoto do this? At this moment, Sarah had the urge to rush out and pull her down, but after thinking about it, she realized that she had no reason to do so at all, so she could only hide under the bed quietly and dare not move. "My heart is full of remorse. If I don't hide myself, then Makoto won't be able to succeed." She blamed herself for being too curious. She wanted to hear what Makoto was going to say, but she didn't say anything at all, and came up to launch such a violent attack. At this time, Naruto's breathing became a little heavier, and the thing under his crotch was directly lifted up, propped up high within Makoto's double stock. "Makoto, why are you doing this?" Naruto couldn't hold on to it for a long time, but his sense of reason still reminded him that this is Sayu's mother. What should Zuo do if she has a relationship with her? However, when he thought about it, a fluke appeared in his heart. Maybe the two time and space belong to parallel worlds, so no matter how absurd things he did here, it would not affect everything in that world. Thinking of this, his remaining worries disappeared. He swallowed slightly. Naruto stretched out his hand, and slowly pressed Makoto's jade and milk.